Good morning and welcome to another episode of your favorite weekend current affairs and political analysis program, The Big Issue, on Citi 97.3 FM and also on CCTV Ghana. My name is Godfred Akweto Boafo. It's been a week dominated by two very big issues. The rearrest of N. Huang, popularly known as Aisha Huang, popularly known as Ya Santua, Chinese illegal miner, arrested by national security apparatus after being deported from Ghana sometime in 2018-2019. And her arrest has raised several questions as to how she re-entered the country. Was she actually deported? How she came to be able to acquire a non-citizen's ID card to be able to go through those processes. And in fact, what is the true story behind her rearrest? Several versions have come up. There's a national security version. Then there's a version that has also come up about a dispute with her landlord actually leading to her arrest. Today, we will try and break down what it means. What is the bigger picture? It's not just Aisha Huang. What does she represent in the fight against Galamsey? What does she represent in the fight to close down on illegal miners, and also on the country's security architecture? What this means for us. That is what we'll be looking at in the first part of the show. The second part, of course, the NCA this week put out an announcement on punitive measures that it had promised way back last month on recalcitrant citizens who were refusing to register or who had not registered their SIM cards. Well, those punitive measures kicked in this week, but it hasn't gone according to plan because some persons whose SIM cards are duly registered have also suffered from this. And we are told that some legal action is being taken by some affected persons, and all this. We'll try again and make sense of this whole need to get Ghanaians registered by the National Communications Authority. So very solid 3 hours coming up on The Big Issue. Welcome back to The Big Issue. And as always, like I always say, it's an interactive program. We have two WhatsApp lines if you want to join us, 0549 986 996, 0549 986 996, 0550 5832, 0549 986 996, and 0550 5832. Those of you who prefer to use Twitter at Citi973 and at CitiTVGH are the Twitter handles for the station. You can also reach me on at Godfred Akweto Boafo at East Sportsman with your comments and suggestions. Tell me what you make of the Aisha Huang situation, and also what issues, if you have any, with the SIM card registration, the self-service app that has also come in for intense criticism from users. Tell me what your experiences have been. I'll gladly share them, and perhaps we'll be able to push some questions. We'll be talking to, for instance, the Director of Legal of the National Communications Authority today on the program. So send me your questions ahead of time, and I might be able to address those questions to him on your behalf. If you do miss out, don't worry. We're also on YouTube, CityTube, CITI, and then Tube, TUBE. Subscribe to the channel when you get there. And you can type in The Big Issue and you can get playback of the show anytime that you want to. We're also streaming live on Facebook. Do share that stream on that you can find on Citi TV GH and also Citi 973 on Facebook. You can also leave your questions. So that is how you can reach us and keep up with what is sure to be a really interesting 3 hours. And I'll start the conversation from the doors of national security, illegal mining, immigration, and whatnots, because N. Huang, popularly known as Aisha Huang, alleged Galamsey mega mine of sorts in this country, was deported sometime back in 2018, has been rearrested. She was rearrested this past Friday. She has been put before court. And she's been charged with mining without license and engaging in the sale and purchase of minerals without a valid license. And our Citi News had gathered that Aisha came to Ghana from a neighboring country through a land border, and upon arrival, she acquired a Ghana non-citizen's ID card in February 2022. Now, sources close to the development have told Citi News that she has been sneaking in and out of the country. We put together a bit of a report on this, so we'll hear the report, and then when we come back, I will tell you who my guests are on the program this morning for the first part, and I will try and make sense of this whole Aisha Huang conundrum.
After her deportation in 2018, reports indicate that Aisha came to Ghana from a neighboring country through a land border. Upon her arrival, she acquired a Ghana card in February 2022 with a new name, Huang Eng. Citi News sources at the Ghana-Togo border to the east and the Ghana-Ivory Coast border at Elubo to the west indicated that the Galamsey Queen did not enter Ghana through these routes and at west entered through an unapproved route. Sources close to the development told Citi News that she sneaks out of Ghana if she picks up information about a potential arrest. Luck, however, eluded her, leading to her arrest at Ahonjo, a suburb of Kumasi, where she allegedly owns a shop selling materials for mining. She was rearrested together with 3 others for their involvement in alleged illegal mining. Commenting on the development via his Twitter handle, the Attorney General indicated that the required steps will be taken to prosecute Aisha Huang after a noli prosequi was filed the last time she was arrested and deported in 2018. For pressure group Occupy Ghana, the rearrest of Aisha Huang is an opportunity for government to make a bold statement in reclaiming the almost lost fight against illegal mining.
We showed the Attorney General a copy of the charge sheet that had been prepared by the police or Ghana Immigration Service and said, not in this country. Over our dead bodies, you must charge her with the relevant offences. We cited the sections of the Minerals and Mining Act that, in our view, creates the offences that must be laid against her. Thank God. The Attorney General received our petition, called for it, and filed the proper charges. So on 24th May 2017, we issued another statement acknowledging the fresh charges and saying, now, let's see, agrone form. Then she was spirited out of this country. You see the sequence? They would have done administrative offences and sent her away. Or charged, should have paid some minor fines.
Goes back to do her.
But when we forced the proper charges, they suspected the charges were going to stick. And so, as the then senior minister admitted, either we imposed the trouble on ourselves or the Chinese government imposed on us. We sent her, I think it was a noli prosequi. And we allowed her to go away. Because those charges would have sent her to jail for 20 years. You see, at the very least, acknowledge the work we did. Yeah. The charges were sent her to jail for 20 years. And they spirited her away. When they did, we didn't spare them. We did not spare them. On 24th September 2019, we said that then the senior minister came to defend it.
Yeah.
We were on his tail. Finally, the president came and admitted that it was a mistake. Yeah. And we told him that the Aisha Huang mistake was a slap in the face of Ghanaians. 24th September 2019, reported by Graphic. We later went back and said that his fight against Galamsey died the day they allowed Aisha Huang to go. You see, instead of trying Aisha Huang, we spirited her out of the country. She's back. Because there's something here. It's gold. We don't know our gold. If she's prepared to risk a return to this country, risk jail for our gold, apparently she's here from the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Right? This is interesting. There's something here. But this is the point. Today, she's back. Because we didn't jail her. We didn't give the court the opportunity to even free her. So if she's back, she's run into our arms. Are we going to free her again? Are we going to make another mistake because the president admitted it's a mistake? But listen to this. How can we be burning the equipment? That is the evidence that will try the people.
Aisha Huang, all through her stay in the country, resides mainly in the Ashanti region. Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah tells Citi News how security officers effected her arrest last week.
She claims she got here on 31st. That is what we also know, that she got into the region on 31st. And we had to do some investigation to find out the reality that she was in town. And when we got the truth, 6:50 a.m. on the 2nd of September, she was arrested in her residence at Ahonjo. And now, and it was an interagency operations among 3 agencies. That's the intel unit of the of the police, Ghana Immigration Service, together with the Defense Intelligence of 4BN, and then NIB. These three agencies work together to arrest.
Meanwhile, a civil society group in the environmental sector, Arocha Ghana, is demanding the resignation of all officials involved in the Aisha Huang saga.
This is, for us, very shocking. And the first thing I will say that we should let our leadership, those who are really being at the forefront of handling issues in relation to Aisha Huang, resign to start with. And the whole issue surrounding Aisha Huang, I would say, characterize the failures in our system in dealing with nature crimes or associated illegalities in respect of our natural resources. So the thing is that if you look at it carefully, there is selective administration of justice when it comes to making sure people who are found culpable of the law really face the law. Now, that is the case where, from the Fourth Estate, in terms of their own investigation, just 2 nationals are in Ghana's prison. Now, you ask yourself, how is that possible? So the fact that Aisha Huang can be deported, go and come, reflect the vicious cycle we find ourselves as a country.
After her arrest, it was discovered that Aisha Huang possesses a non-citizen ID card. The National Identification Authority, which issued the card, has released a statement seeking to explain how she acquired the card. According to the statement, Aisha Huang attempted to acquire the card in August 2022 in Tamale, but the registration was flagged by the NIA system.
Yeah, so that basically captures the whole Aisha Huang scenario as it has occurred this week. And I'm sure you have your own thoughts on it. Do share them with me. Like I said, WhatsApp line 0549986996 and 0550585832. And to try and make sense of this, let me just tell you who I'll be having the conversation with this morning. I'll be speaking, of course, to Professor Vladimir Nchidanso, who's the Dean, Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. Franklin Kujo will also join us. Francis Opoku, who is a PR of the Small Scale Miners Association. Eric Chung will pass through as well Dr. Kwesi Enin at some point during the program. So let me start the conversation from the Small Scale Miners side. And Francis Opoku is the person who speaks for the Small Scale Miners Association. Francis Opoku, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, my brother.
Francis, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Good morning, Francis.
Good morning.
Yes, thank you very much and for joining us on the big issue. I guess my first question to you would be, the Small Scale Miners Association of Ghana, did you know and Huang?
We know of Asha, but we didn't actually know of the official name, what we have on the card.
Oh, okay.
By every small scale, I think most of our members has either heard of the name or has kind of have had an encounter with her one way or the other. So a lot of people know about that name.
Okay, so you that's why I asked you that question. What would you have heard, and how would they have encountered Aisha Huang? In what capacity?
Yeah, you see, the nature of the small-scale mining activities are said that one way or the other, we kind of come in connection with most of the operators. It could be either you are working close to somebody with a license concession. You are in the same district, and so definitely you are likely going to have interaction with one another. So that's how come some of our members came to know her. And also sometimes you see when you are working, you have to get equipment. Let's say you have to also get parts to buy. So Aisha Huang has been involved in some of this. Either he's selling He's contracting people to mine. So he's not an unknown figure among the small-scale miners.
Okay, and would you say she would be considered a major player in the small-scale mining space?
A major player how? This is a simple question. Does the sector allow foreigners to operate in it? No. So for her to be a major player is totally out.
But you were saying your members were dealing with her, whether in trying to acquire some things because she sold mining equipment and provided certain kinds of services. In what capacity then were they dealing with her then, since, like you said, it's a no-go space?
Oh, okay. You see, I didn't intend to mean just dealing with her directly, but what I'm saying that, you see, you could be working on your concession, and the next concession will happen to be a Chinese person working there.
Okay.
And that Chinese person, by virtue of you maybe working in the same district, you can easily identify the person working next to you. So this is what I mean, not directly like dealing with her in terms of having business relationship with her. I mean, from our members, no. But we all knew what she was doing, and then she was doing mostly illegal stuff. And you and I know that there's a lot of illegal activities going on. And if assuming I'm working close to Aisha Huang, I wouldn't have. The best I could do is to probably go and inform the authorities that there's a Chinese working close to me.
Yeah.
But when it comes to arrest, I don't think I have that power. And let me tell you, Aisha Huang is a powerful person in Ghana. We allow her to be powerful because, I don't know, he knew the key to getting to our people. I mean, getting to leadership. I mean, getting his way through in everything he wanted to do. And so he took advantage of the weakness in our system, the fact that we are our leadership and our politicians and are so vulnerable. You can easily, grease their palms and then, have your way through. And obviously, it's not only Aisha Huang. Most of the Chinese have this mindset that Ghanaians' law don't work. Ghanaians are so, so individualistic, and they put their selfish interests ahead of the patriotic interests. And they have taken full advantage of it. And Aisha Huang is a very intelligent person. So this is exactly the strategy she adopted, and then she was able to befriend a whole lot of the setup. I mean, talk about the commanders, the police commanders, district, wherever. I mean, this thing, a lot of people are talking about it. And I mean, you people are the right people to investigate whether they, at a point, he had a friendship with some of these people who are supposed to enforce the laws. So I thought some of us are having interaction with some of these Chinese, and honestly speaking, they don't respect us as a country. And they will always tell you, if you come to the mining areas, the Chinese will easily say that for Ghana police, you give them small money and that's okay. That's their term. So Chinese actually thrive on where systems or places where people are not serious with their laws. Let me give you a scenario.
Okay.
In 2017, when the ban was placed on small-scale mining activity, a lot of these Chinese went to Cote d'Ivoire to work because Ghana, there was a ban on small-scale mining activities. And from our research, we realized that I think 3/10 of those who went there had to rush back to Ghana to wait till the ban will be lifted because they couldn't survive there. The laws there are so strict that in Cote d'Ivoire, you can't even go and sell gold anywhere apart from to the government. In Cote d'Ivoire, they will not tolerate any, excuse me for my word, nonsense from any foreigner who will not go strictly by the laws and then regulations governing the sector. So it's sad, but that is the reality that we face in the sector. And interestingly, as we talk, there are a lot of activities going on, mining activities going on in our forests. And we have refused as a nation to find out who are behind those people allowing the Chinese to work in our forests. And it's happening. We sit down and fold our arms and something happens, and then we then wake up and say, oh, then once we make noise, small noise, and then at the end of the day, we bury everything under the carpet. Chinese has taken advantage of us, and they are now here in their numbers. And this issue about Aisha Huang, I can say, on authority, that it might not be only Aisha Huang. There are a lot of Chinese who have been deported. If you are to go and investigate, you'll find out that a lot of them might be in this country, because they know that you can pass through these borders and come easily. Aisha Huang is a very noticeable person. And then you also know there's so much hula baru about her. That's why her issue has come up. But the question is, what about most of the Chinese who are not well known, like Aisha Huang, and have been deported? A lot of them could find their way back. So it's a serious issue. It's a wake-up call, actually, that we have to look at as a country to rethink the way we do our things. So this is what I can say for now.
Yeah, interesting perspective you're providing. I'll stay with you. Since this whole war on Galamsey started, from where your association sits, because you partake in it, how involved would you say are these Chinese nationals that you keep mentioning? Are they a significant portion of the illegal mining component?
Definitely, yes. Hugely significant. Why am I saying this? The Chinese have found a way to always, move around the circles. I mean, in terms of knowing where to go and where not to go. Let me give you a scenario that will explain your question. You know, when the new minister came, Abu Junapo came. He came out with a ban, actually, on operations on large scale, prospecting license concessions. You know, we have small-scale mining license. I'm giving you categories of concessions that we could have in the space. We have small-scale mining license that is normally 25 acres or below for small-scale miners, and we also have beyond 25 acres is large-scale mining concessions. For large-scale, you can start with recognized license. Recognizance is license given to people to just go and check. You don't work, you don't operate. Then you move on to prospecting. With prospecting, you do basic sampling, river sampling, and all these basic stuff to check if there's a deposit there. And then you move on to mining lease. So this is aspect that people don't know much. The Chinese are not supposed to work in the small-scale miners. But then, if it's a mining with a license with lease, they can go and work there. They can go and work as a large-scale mining companies. But this is what is happening. People will take prospecting license, and then they will go ahead to get a mining lease on their prospecting to become a mining lease license. And then they will bring the Chinese on board. So the Chinese will come and operate on a mining lease areas. Normally, some of these areas are forest areas. That people are not supposed to do open mining, open cast mining, alluvial mining, where you destroy a whole forest cover. You are supposed to do like Anglo Gold and this Goldface are doing underground mining. But because of influence, political influence and other things, people who are powerful, they will cover their license with lease so that they will allow the Chinese to come and work. So on paper, in principle, they qualify to work on mining lease. But what they do there is typically illegal mining. And that kind of illegal mining surpasses every kind of illegal mining. That is a scenario that happened in the DSO, where unfortunately the police commander, the army man, was killed.
Yeah.
It was a similar scenario. They will go and take a concession that is supposed to be large scale, that is supposed to apply large scale operations. That goes strictly with environmental and then operational guidelines, strict ones. But the Chinese don't go there and practice those kind of things. And those people that, if you go, they can go and defend them in courts. Meanwhile, what they are doing there is tantamount to galamsey. So that's why I'm telling you that the Chinese, if you beat them here, they will go to the other ground. But this thing cannot happen in Cote d'Ivoire and then Burkina Faso. But it's happening in Ghana, and we look on.
But it's pretty strange you are describing this scenario, considering we are in the middle of what has been tagged a war against galamsey. And like you mentioned, we've seen the minister and his deputy ministers being very active, significant levels of community engagement. We've seen a retooling of some of the security agencies to try and reduce this. From where you sit, is there an impact being made, or things are the same? Nothing has really changed?
Let me tell you something. When Minister Abu came, and then he banned all operations in the forests and then the forest reserves, he termed some areas as red flag areas.
Yeah.
Initially he included all operations in the forests, whether you have license or no license. He said we should stop, and I clapped for him. But not long after that, he came to say that with the exception of certain places that people have lease on them, we could have exceptions. And that was where I cried, because you see, the question is, why did you come in the first place to ban all activities in the forest, whether people have license or not? Because like I said earlier, those who were working there, they were not using they were not doing the kind of mining they are supposed to do with mining lease. So some of us clapped for him when he said every activity should cease. But later on, people find their way to manipulate to get those licenses that have been stopped to go back and work. That was the woe, the beginning of our woes.
Okay, we seem to have experienced a bit of a technical hitch with Francis Opoku. We'll try and get him back, but he was providing.
Members were not able to go.
Okay, he's back.
They can't afford. So sometimes our leadership, sometimes when we advise them, they feel, some of us have been in the system for so long. When they come and then you advise, they think they know everything, but they will go and they hit the wall, and then they come back. By that time, you see, issues with mining are so critical that it's not like public sector issues, like where people will go and then mess up with our monies, and they go to public account committee and they sit down and they do, nothing happened. But with the mining, it's obvious. The water, you see them with your naked eye, polluted, and then you will not get water. So, see, issues with mining, we don't have to take them for granted. With me alone, I would suggest that politicians shouldn't involve with mining activities at all. But once you have a situation where people in politics are involved in mining, enforcement becomes extremely difficult. Knowing the kind of country we are in, where if you are big, if you have political lineage or political backing, it's difficult for you to be prosecuted when you go foul to the law. So we will suggest that they should leave mining to miners. There are a lot of people who don't have work and then they are in the sector. Why do you always want to come into the sector to compromise enforcement and then monitoring?
Just a piece of education, if you can provide it. We do know that once you mine, and gold buyers normally would have to know the source of the gold. Minerals Commission checks all these things to keep an eye on just how much gold is being mined and how much gold is being sold. For those who are involved in these illegal aspects, like Aisha Huang was, how do they sell the gold and make money? Who are they selling it to?
Yeah. The thing is, see, like what you said, is called traceability. We have fair trade concepts. The Global Gold Organization requires that the gold you will produce, we should be able to trace it to a source that is legitimate. But in Ghana, you see, it also boils down to how our laws, we are not serious with our laws. In Ghana, this thing is not working. You can once you mine, you can mine the water, you can mine wherever. You can easily sell gold because there are gold sellers all over Ghana. Some of them, I think most of them have been given license by a Minerals Commission to buy gold. So once you hold your gold and you go and sell, nobody asks you where you got the gold from. So the Chinese, they say, I mean, they get their gold. Some of them sell in Ghana. Some of them find a way to send them away. Hello?
I can hear you. Please go on.
Oh, okay, good. So, like I stated, unlike Ivory Coast, you can't produce gold and go and sell it anywhere. The system there are so well structured in such a way that it's the government who buys all the gold. But Ghana is not like that. That's why there's some kind of smuggling. You know, last 2 years, I think around 2019, 2020, Ghana small-scale mining sector recorded about 35% of the total gold production. And then we rake in about $2.5 billion or so, if I'm right. But just last year, it dropped to 100,000 USD. It came so down. So we were wondering, how come? Because mining activities were going on. So how come that drastic reduction? Then we should quickly remind ourselves that there could be smuggling. So a whole lot of things are not working right as far as the sector is concerned.
Thank you very much, Francis. Just stay with me for a while. Let me bring in the president of Imani Africa, Franklin Kujo. Franklin, good morning.
Good morning, my good brother. Good morning to my co-panelists as well. I hope you are well.
Yes, we are well, as always.
We are good.
Yes, a pleasure to have you. I'm sure you heard Mr. Opoku from the Small Scale Miners Association and the insights he has provided. You link that with what we have heard this week concerning Aisha Huang. What are your thoughts, Franklin?
Well, to say that I'm surprised would be probably an understatement. Rather, I'm trying to say that I'm not surprised. That's the point I'm trying to make. Don't forget that the sector has been dogged with a lot of problems. Even before the likes of Aisha Huang came into the fray, we already had a very discordant, mining regime when it comes to small-scale mining. We're already dealing with it. I mean, from the issues around the ability for a local person or the Ghanaian to get involved in that business, the ability to come up with the cost or the funds to get into it in a very organized manner. And the whole conversations about sustainability or sustainable mining, as it were, also has to deal with those who would have been taken off this trade and then how there was a need to resettle them. I think we haven't progressed that much. I'm saying that even before Aisha Huang came, we're having issues that we're grappling with. Weren't we? Even when we have done all these multi-party type of soups from the security agencies to including our traditional leaders. It wasn't long ago that we had our own Odike saying that he believes strongly that the non-traditional authorities are partakers in this trade as well. What the lives of Ashawan have done to us essentially is that they provided the means to help an illegal activity to continue, really. Um, and they perfected the art perfectly well. And the whole reasons behind this, the current uproar, is simply because, well, we managed to somehow get her again under our grips, really. Otherwise, I'm not too sure Shawan alone is the only person operating in this sector as a foreigner. I think that because of the loose nature of the arrangements we have regarding the sector, it makes it easy for people within the country to have partners across the world. And of course, the Chinese have been said to be worthy partakers because they have the money and of course they have the ability to help locals get in the trade. So I think fundamentally for me, one of the issues we need to deal with is how to ensure that the sector is smoothly gathered and Ghanaians are allowed through fair means, through legitimate economic means, to be able to partake in this trade. I mean, the whole idea of making it illegal in itself is only to suggest that, well, some persons are in it because they don't have to be there. But again, it's a whole question about property rights. I mean, I think clearly speaking, once we deal with that factor about the ability of people to mine their own concessions and have the funds to do so, will not be attracting flies like the ways we've attracted others from China, really. So I'm not trying to direct, I'm trying to probably go back to the fundamentals of why we still have illegal mining and why we have foreigners taking part uh, taking part in it, either through the back door, I mean, in a frontal manner. But coming back to the issue of why Ashawan returned, I mean, I'm not entirely sure that she probably is the only person in this country who has managed to dodge, I mean, and re-enter the country illegally. There are all manner of persons entering countries illegally anyway. The fact that we found there, well, it's a feather in our cap. But the way, for me, the NIA angle is where we need to actually attach a lot of seriousness to. Question is, once Ashawan was flagged, Ashawan should have been flagged in the system the moment we deported her. So the moment
But frankly, before you move on, that is where perhaps those who have questions are also beginning to start their questions from, because deportation is removal of one from a certain one state to another. It goes through a process. So the questions people are asking is, was she just removed from the country as in take an air ticket, leave, or she was deported within the legal framework of how a deportation is supposed to happen? Because then that would make it quite difficult for her to return if she were actually deported.
Well, people can, I'm sure that's another conversation to be had. I mean, even if she was deported to China and managed to find a way back into the country, it's still an aberration. I'm trying to look at from our end here. Once someone who has been registered or known through the system, because don't forget she acquired a Ghana card, a foreign non-resident.
The non-citizen card.
Well, legally at the time. And so her biometrics were already captured. Once she was deported, the system should have flagged it in such a way that the moment she entered the country back again and was trying to access anything, should have, access any services, that alone should have given authorities the opportunity to pick her up immediately. I think what didn't happen is that even when her records, when her identity was flagged at the registration through the NIA, it wasn't immediately reported. because somehow we hadn't flagged it in the system that this was a deportee and this was someone who was probably highly sought after and couldn't enter the country again. I think that's where the challenge was. And I see the NIA trying to backfill. The NIA should, if the system of deportation was that robust, what it meant was that once the name came up in our system, it should have been flagged immediately. I don't think it's the NIA that lent efforts to her arrest. It wasn't the case. I think the NIA was trying to backfill and say, well, we saw her, we tried encouraging her to get a card through other means, and that's actually being complicit in her ability to stay under the radar. So the point I'm making is, I'm not interested in whether the deportation was done properly or not, because people do come back. People do go back to places they've been deported again anyway. But it's the robustness of the system to immediately flag the person once she's trying to acquire a service or otherwise. So that's what I think the issue really is. Where the issue really is, it is at the point of determining how we should have ensured that almost all our entry points, be it the borders, would immediately flag her. Immediately she managed to come through those loose borders, really.
All right, then. Thank you very much for your thoughts on that, Frank. Let me come in studio and speak to my good friend Erica Mwakuchum, speaks for the government on a couple of matters. Sorry, good morning. It's been a while.
Good morning, Godfred.
You took a bit of a hiatus after your campaign period, but it's good to see you back in action.
Not really. I'm always around.
Oh, okay. Good to see you back in action.
Same here. How are you?
Well, I want to deal with you on the matter of IT because that is your field of expertise. It's something, from an IT man's perspective, this is one big mess up, is it not?
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me here. I think that even if you listen to Franklin, you realize that in terms of the technical protocols, the system actually was able to flag the fact that someone had already registered and was trying to re-register different details. But then, of course, even as good as a system that there may be, you still would need that human factor to make the next judgment call, which is what are the set of protocols
To follow.
in place to follow when you're able to flag something like that. And I think that once there was a leeway in terms of even trying to ask her to provide further details, if well and indeed she's changed her name and all of those things, that's where I have a challenge with. And so whilst we're trying to dissect the issues, I think that in the bigger scheme of things, in terms of why it's important that we have an NIA, for example, and the issuance of the cards, and how you're able to use that to track persons like that. I think that the system has actually proven that it works, and it makes even a lot more sense to focus on making sure that this whole conversation around digitalization and its impact, and I mean, going forward, it's something that we should still be talking about. However, I can agree with you that once that was flagged, then there has to be a system in place to ensure that, one, these persons are either interviewed or even there's further interrogation to make sure that it is not just maybe a hitch or an anomaly in the system, but indeed as someone who's trying to basically pull a fast one. And so that's where I think that there's a departure. But in the broader conversation, there's also this whole idea that, how come she found herself into the country when we all know that by the very nature of our borders, there's a very possibility that can happen. However,
but she came through a major one, according to the official statements.
Well, yes, but then the point is that then you also have a security apparatus. I was listening to the regional minister, Ashanti regional minister, when I was coming, and it was very clear that there was a certain collaboration between the various security agencies to, once it became known that she was in the jurisdiction, to, of course, go and arrest her. And then the commitment that has come from the Attorney General to ensure that even the very first case that the state decided to file for a nolle prosequi would be revisited and all that. But we also have to be very, objective in this particular conversation. We've been talking about Aisha Huang for a good part of 10 years or so. I remember, where there were certain.
She became a figure in 2017, 2018.
Yeah, but prior to that, it was very clear that she was actually still here and was operating, and that's the reason why she has all sorts of names, Yasa, Toa, and all of those things. Then you're listening to the PRO of the small-scale miners and everything, and he makes some solid points. But it's also very clear that they are local collaborators. You understand? And that if he actually admits that everybody within the space actually knows who she is, and that foreigners are not supposed to engage and operate in that particular space. Yet there's a clear admittance from his side that it's almost like an open secret that she's in the region and she's operating and people are actually engaging. And so there's this whole local collaborators thing that I think that we also have to look at. And then when you move forward from that, the issue is I come from an area that has challenges with Galamsey. And the point is that how do you find some of these equipments are huge, major, logistic challenges in itself. Find its way to go through communities and actually finds its way in the forest. When you have a district, you're supposed to have a district security committee. I made a point last time on Metro TV that I believe that we need to get to the point where some drastic actions should be taken in areas where Galamsey is ongoing. Because even if you feign ignorance, it cannot be an excuse. But once specific actions are being taken, I know I won't be very popular for saying this, but once specific actions are being taken in regard to that, when there's a clear, flagrant disregard to some of the protocols in terms of don't mine in the river bodies, don't go into forest reserves, and don't be engaging in this if you just have a prospecting license and all that, then it's almost as if the whole security apparatus in that particular district is useless. And that's my point. But as we go forward, I believe that with all the things being said, that we need to have a new look at this thing. And what's even sad for me is that government has done quite a lot of things in this particular sector. However, when you hear stories like this, it actually negates all the gains that have been made. For example, I always forget her name. Her name is Carol Sewa Donko. So she works with this agency that does this alternative livelihood under the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, where they're doing all these alternative livelihood schemes in farming and all sorts of programs, reclaiming. The minister himself has been actively involved in putting together a program to reclaim those degraded sites so that we can use it for sustainable agriculture and all sorts of things. You have the community mining initiative that is ongoing in certain communities in the country and all of those things. You have the ministry investing money in putting speedboats on some of the river bodies to ensure that, especially when it comes to mining in the river bodies and contamination, we're able to forestall that and all that. Yet, when it comes to the news, bad news actually sells. And so it's almost as if that all of a sudden, all the various commentators are now saying that, we've lost the fight against Galan. I don't think so, right? And if you come, and if you've been objective, and you go back to 2016, 2017, 2015, thereabout, where every single place that you go to had major issues with Galamsey. It's not like that anymore. There were even reports, I think that you guys were leading the charge, where some of the major rivers that we had in this country, the Pra and Ofin and all that, after the work that was done initially, you would go back and you realize that even the very nature of the river body has changed. So for me, yes, let's have a holistic conversation surrounding Galamsey and all that. For example, people would always be, I was reading, I don't know if you read the book, The Gold Rush, right? So this is something that has been happening 300, 400, 500, 600 years. And people would go to these places and there's be an influx of foreigners and all sorts of people within that space. I think that we've gotten to the point that we have to relook at how we manage that small-scale mining space. You understand what I'm saying? Because now we have the benefit of technology and all of those things. For example, the Minerals Commission and the ministry, for example, should be able to geotag all the various places that mining can be done, and also democratize the process. And the reason why some of the people actually, for anybody that has money and has the capital and the resources to be able to come in and want to do that, if you democratize the process, I think that they would actually legitimize it. Because there's no motivation to, for example, all these people who are investing $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in excavators, and then for one reason or the other, it gets bent because they don't have the right licensing, right? And I believe that if you democratize the process and you make it a bit more open and transparent, geotag all the various places, have proper collaboration with the traditional authorities in areas that is allowed, which is in these areas is a no-no. Because we've had evidence of people just having prospecting licensing, and they'll come back and say that, well, we're having challenges with actually getting the full license to operate, and they'll actually start active mining when they are not supposed to. And so I think that we've gotten to the point where, whilst we're doing all of these things, you have to relook at the small-scale mining industry, and even areas where foreigners can play a role. Because what tends to happen, I don't want to be xenophobic or anything, what tends to happen as well is that, in as much as we are giving a lot of flack, especially to the Chinese, the reality on the ground is that the Chinese don't own land in this country. And so sometimes in some of these mining sites are actually being fronted by our own people. Go take the license or whatever it is and allow these people to go in there by striking these partnership arrangements and all that. So because regardless of what we do, and I don't think that it's even governments, there's a certain inclination from government that we should not mine the gold, the resources that have been bequeathed to us by God. But the reality on the ground is that I think that we've gotten to the point where we need to revisit that whole space and democratize the space. I know people, for example, want to be involved in the community mining space. Make it easy. Allow the process to be so flexible that people can come in once you have the resources to be able to do that. You'll be able to go in there in properly demarcated areas where there's also the rules of engagement are very clear. Okay. Then if that happens, then it means that if you go and sink $1 million or $2 million or $3 million in an illegal operation, then it is your own fault, right? And then I think Franklin was even talking about the sustainability conversation. Once you're able to open it up and you ensure that, one, the rules of engagement are being played, the EPA is involved, all the various stakeholders are involved, and once they are doing what they're supposed to do, you mine, you cover, you have a long-term strategy in terms of the community engagement and all of those things, then we'll not be having this conversation. So I think that in as much as, it's the sensational aspect of the Aisha Huang thing, but maybe it's also an opportunity for us to revisit the whole mining industry and the space. Then again, issues to do with security. And I think that it's very important that as a sign to even show that we are committed to fighting this. I mean, like the Attorney General said, let this case go through the full hog. And governance is a very complex enterprise. And so I see people trying to quote the former senior minister and make all sort of inferences.
He said what he said.
And yeah, I understand. But the point is that, you see, we also have to be very careful how we have this democracy.
Why should we?
No, listen, this democracy conversation, right? Certain considerations always come into play when you want to even prosecute. Okay, and it's also democracy. It's democratic. You can't pick and choose certain aspects of a democracy. And so whilst the CSOs, right, have a right to insist on a certain angle, right, the law, the same constitution that we have, right, gives room, and that's why sometimes I have a challenge with some of these conversations, gives room for the state to look at the merits of a particular case and its auxiliary impact and say, okay, for this particular one, we'll make a decision of filing a null prosecution. It's happened in so many jurisdictions.
Eric,
however,
one I disagree with you.
No. Yeah, you can disagree with me.
I'll take
but
a
it's democracy. That's the whole point.
I understand your point.
Yeah,
but I'll take a break.
Okay.
I'll take a break. Then we should be right back. Welcome back to The Big Issue on Citi TV and also Citi 97.3 FM. My name is Godfrey Akwetoboafo. Just first part of the show discussing the whole Aisha Huang rearrest and its implications, what it affects. We've looked at the small mining component. We've looked at the small scale mining component. We've looked at the security component, just to try and understand what's been happening with this and how we can prevent this from happening, and the larger picture of the war against Galamsey, in the larger picture of security, in the larger picture of international relations as well. That is where I'm going. The first part of the show, I spoke to Erica Makuchum, who is here with me in studio. Francis Opoku, PRO Small Scale Miners Association, also we've heard from him. Franklin Kujo is president of Imani Africa as well. Let me go now to Zoom again and speak to the Dean of the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College himself in international relations. Academic of several decades standing, Professor Vladimir Ntridan. So, Prof, morning. Yes.
Hola, how are you doing?
I am well, sir. As always, a pleasure speaking to you on some of these matters. Aisha Huang,
so
this is a question I want to ask again. Do you, from an academic perspective, see what happened in 2018, 2019 as a deportation process, so-called, considering her ability to return 4 years later or 5 years later?
Well, let me say hello and a good morning to your viewers and to my friend over there, Honorable Kokofu.
That's not Honorable Kokofu. This is Erica Makuchu.
Oh, okay, my regards.
Yes. Please go on, sir.
Anyway, the point is this, that deportation has its own, rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm.
The main point is that, yes, she was deported as per the rules governing deportation. And normally, when you are deported, you are declared a persona non grata. For you to wash yourself and come back, you got to go through a lot of processes, including knowledge of that through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the Ministry of Interior, who would grant you the entry. But, well, be it as it may, we didn't see that. And it doesn't also mean that when you are deported, you cannot come back by your own way, kind of. I mean, people are deported, they come back brazenly to face the law if they want it, because they know that they have something that they could use in proving themselves right. So in Aisha Huang's case, you know that she didn't come by any approved route. She didn't come through the normal process where immigration would have to agree for her re-entry. So she's a criminal in that sense. It's pure criminality. Let's separate that from whatever politics we want to play with it. She entered illegally, and illegally more so because she entered through an unapproved route and went back to the very things that created the condition for her deportation. So in that sense, she's just an ordinary criminal and must be treated as such.
But what does that say, though, then, about the larger security architecture, so-called, considering the times that we live in a period where, for instance, coastal West Africa is on the alert, Accra Initiative is on, all kinds of projects are being undertaken, and regular illegal petty criminal is moving in and out of the country?
Well, when people ask me this question, I always tell them that, look, there is not a single country on this earth which has its borders locked up. When even Trump tried to build walls, there were people, miscreants, who were able to dig tunnels to enter the US. And so there's no way you can keep your borders closed like an airtight thing or some portmanteau which you have locked. And it doesn't mean that your security architecture is porous or bad, because the more you try to be tight, or the tighter you are, the more the miscreants also try to find the least of loopholes. Any lapse will get them in. Some can dress as women when they are men. Others can, that is why there's criminality. And so we shouldn't fault our security agencies for not being able to track her down or unable to arrest her. After all, we said she came by on an approved route. So what we need to do, the Accra Initiative you're talking about, all other initiatives are there, which the government is trying to fold through. But then we'll still have people who would look for the least loophole, some of them being just ordinary bribery. And I believe she bribed her way through. She couldn't have gone to the extent that she went if she hadn't bribed some little officials along the way or paid somebody to lead her through some routes or that kind of thing. And that's what we should be thinking about, and not blame, say, the immigration or whatever it is. They are gatekeepers, but they can only keep where your gates are. Where you have other wide open doors, they can't keep those ones. And that's what we should be thinking about. So it doesn't speak so much ill of our security architecture. If you don't believe me, let's take 9/11, where 19 ordinary people, non-American citizens, entered and were able to hijack 4 American bona fide planes to be used as missiles. Does it speak anything about the American architecture, security architecture? Yes, there were lapses, and these are the lapses that were exploited by those who undertook the 9/11 massacre of American citizens. So no country, I have a friend who always jokes, he's very shortish, and he says that at the heavenly gate, when Jesus Christ is busy interviewing people and allowing them to enter the heaven gate, he will smuggle himself through and go to heaven. Can you imagine? People are even thinking of how to beat the heavenly rules and enter heaven. So my brother, whether we like it or not, there is not a time in our history that we will be able to make sure that, as for our borders, they are just neat and sacrosanct that nobody can enter. It will never happen. All we need to be more vigilant, put down, it's like to make it more difficult for miscreants like Aisha Huang to be able to enter. Make it an unprofitable enterprise to be able to enter Ghana. That's what we should be doing. These days, for our border patrols and that sort of thing, artificial intelligence is mostly used in several other places. That one machine standing at one point can monitor about 50 kilometers of your border. These are the things we should be thinking about.
Now, let's also talk a bit about our diplomatic engagements with the People's Republic of China, long-time partners of the country. Right. In fact, according to some reports, Aisha Huang was at the center of diplomatic engagements that led to her deportation, if we are to believe what the then senior minister was saying, which is what led to her going back, because Ghana was vested in securing some funding from the Republic, and she was basically the carrot that was dangled to see that through. But listening to Mr. Francis Opoku from the Small Scale Miners Association, they seem to have a problem with the entry and activity of some of the citizens of China who seem to find their way in here both legally and illegally and engage in these acts. Should there be some form of conversation happening between the government of Ghana and its counterparts on the Chinese side for perhaps a bit more rigor in how its citizens enter the country?
Well, I think that is always ongoing. I remember some 240 Chinese who were deported some time back. I've forgotten the year. And the Chinese embassy came out clearly to say that it is not they who import the Chinese. Ghanaians allow and help the Chinese to come in. They were killing us left, right, and center. And whether you like it or not, it brings about some diplomatic engagement. So those engagements have been going on. Nigerians were here. I remember very well the High Commissioner then was my very good friend. And for every 3 armed robbers that were arrested in Ghana, we have 2 Nigerians. And it was a worrying situation. I remember the Ghanaian government engaged him, and he also engaged the Nigerian community here, talking to them. So as for diplomacy in such situations, they occur every day, at times very quietly, quiet engagement. When the stakes are high, you see exchanges, but we didn't have it that way. Right. On Aisha Huang, yes, people are saying that he was the carrot that was dangled. I don't believe in that. I think Mr. Safo-Mafo perhaps goofed. It may be true that we wanted to use some magnanimity on our part to engage the Chinese on the other side. It happens always in diplomacy. But I don't think Aisha Huang, from the little that I know about her, is that so important a carrot for us. Let me give you, when we talk about carrots, when they are so important. An example is the Huawei president of the Huawei company. It's a worldwide company, a big giant on the world scale. And the Americans wanted her because they said Huawei had breached some laws or rules and that sort of thing. She was arrested in Canada. This is a big fish, a big carrot if you want it. And the Chinese flexed their muscles because she was so important to them. And the Americans knew, and that is why they wanted to use her also for China to sort of mellow in some of the diplomatic exchanges. Such is what, when you say you have somebody whom you can use for exchange. Again, in this Ukrainian war, I think a certain general was arrested also by the Ukrainians, and they were asking the Russians to exchange some specific persons for the general. And Putin told them that he wouldn't do it. If they have arrested a general, fine, it's war. You know, so these are some of the things. You get a good bargaining chip. Aisha, I don't think is that kind of bargaining chip. Let me be blunt with you. My personal view about Aisha is that he's gotten some big wigs, big political wigs, big money-making wigs in the country on whom she is relying. And she is rather making herself like that big fish that we think she is. I'm very happy the Attorney General is now very strong about that. And let us try. Normally, if you really want to test the waters and get something from your partner in diplomacy, you test the waters. Let us prosecute Aisha Huang. If she is so important to the Chinese government, they will come up. They will come up and negotiate. So from where I sit in diplomacy, when you get such a big fish, fine. Let's try Aisha Huang. Let's use all the rules and regulations in international law and our municipal laws to be able to see if the Chinese would rather come forward. That is when, if we are bargaining for some loan or whatever it is, then we can have her as a bargaining chip to get something done. So for me, let us not believe that Aisha Huang was not prosecuted only because we were looking for a loan from China. If she is a big envoy of China, let's try and use her, yes. But let's just use her by testing the waters to see whether she is that big or she has just grown some feathers to make her look big. For me, she's not. And remember that she herself, or there were some news items around the time she was arrested then, that she was dating some big people, and she has some videos or whatever it is, so she could use it to blackmail them. If these were the ones who made it possible for her to be just deported, fine, let's try it again this time, and let her bring out those big people for us to see.
And just to wrap up this leg of the conversation with you, on the larger war against Galamsey, we've seen a significant contribution of the state towards trying to, not necessarily halt, but at least reduce the levels of illegal mining. And I'm looking at this from the perspective of how the benefits of illegal mining are used to fund some of the extremist activities that we continue to see these days around us. Recently, we've had attacks in Togo, we've had some in Benin. We've been told of some of the illegal mining that extremists come from Burkina Faso and Mali to do at a place called Dolapa, which is right here in Ghana. This whole illegal mining space that Ghana is involved in, from where you sit, does it look like we are making progress?
We are making very gradual progress, very, very minor progress as we move along. Unfortunately, I think some politicians are not allowing the process to go the way it should go. It looks as though when we use the hard force, the excavators are recycled. Some excavators were missing. Some politicians were alleged to have been involved and that kind of thing. So that is where we need to stop the leakage from. We need to name and shame. We should be able to make Galamsey an unprofitable enterprise anyway, or very hard to come by. But if people with impunity could enter the forest and dig, the military goes, take them away, and then all of a sudden you see it at other points, then we are not making that progress that we need. I think the government has shown some sincere attitude towards minimizing the extent of Galamsey in the country. But then we, the very people, don't seem to want it. If you look at what is happening in the Galamsey world, then you will know that people are eager, no matter what the situation is. So can we go further by hardening our resolve to stop or minimize the effect of Galamsey by trying to get those big fishes who are behind Galamsey? In fact, reports have it that people go to the Mineral Commission, get the concession, and divide the concession into bits and resell them. So if you pay, say, $50,000 for, say, an acre, then you divide it into 10, you sell each one for $50,000. So that has become another profitable leg, where people are making illegal money, or call it legal. They try to make it look legal. But that is where the crux of the matter is. And then since they fund, you were talking about funding terrorism. But let me tell you, they fund the politicians too. Once they are funding politics in a country, then it is very difficult to stop them. But if we can go beyond the big fishes in this industry, if we are able to nip them, actually, but get some of them behind bars, that's what we fear in our part of the world. If prime ministers and presidents are being put to jail elsewhere, what do we fear in trying to stop a future jolt by halting these bad politicians today? My take on it is that we need to go a little further.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Vladimir Intridan, so Dean, Ghana Armed Forces Commander and Staff College. So let me go back to my good friend Francis Opoku, PR of the Small Scale Miners Association. Francis, are you still with me? Mr. Opoku?
I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes. Thank you for staying with us. So I'm sure you've listened to all my panelists who have shared different perspectives on this conversation as we try to expand it. It's not just about Aisha represents something. Aisha Huang represents all the negative elements that we are trying to deal with in the illegal mining space. What suggestions would you make, again, because you are a player in the space, to those who are trying to help slow down this canker that we have in the mining space?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Francis, please turn on your video.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm happy. You want us to look at it from a more positive dimension now. The negatives, we know already. And as a nation, I think a time has come for us to look at what will benefit us more. I think our man, the MPP man, made a very pronounced statement that, it's not for nothing that God blessed Ghana with gold. And you see, for the gold, we have to mine. And more so, we have to mine it now that, economies everywhere is facing recession and gold price keep rising. So if we are to take, I think Prof made also a very good statement that how do we make it, positive? How do we reform it in such a way that we put proper structures in place? And then we kind of, profess solution to the negatives. As we talk now, gold price is rising in an abnormal way. And instead of people to even buy dollar and keep it, now, if we are to reform our sector so well, we can look at buying gold in terms of saving. And people minds will not go to, to dollar. So there are so many positives we have to do. In terms of, you see, one also, I think Imani and Frank could also make a very good statement that we should look at the root cause of these things. It's about getting the sector so attractive in such a way that if a politician is even involved in small-scale mining, he will not hide. But we have a situation where a lot of these politicians, like Prof said, it's not the small-scale miners who go for the licenses. So most of the time, the prospecting licenses, a whole lot of the politicians go for them. And then they reparcel it and sell to not Ghanaians, but Chinese. So if we can all name and shame and then find a way to eradicate this negative aspect and, you see, bring in proper structures in terms of financing the Ghanaians, in terms of bringing on board maybe allocation from the budget to the sector, like we do to agric. I think there are a lot of people coming out from schools like UMAT and then the tech and all these schools. So if we can set up model small-scale mining where government will cushion them to set up model small-scale mining, it will be good. As we talk, I have to applaud the Minerals Commission. They are doing a yeoman's job. The CEO, Mr. Isi and his group, and then the ministry as large. They are doing fantastic job in terms of the community mining scheme. Yes, it's something we have to applaud them. It's a way to go. In a sense that the target is on hard rock mining. And hard rock, and with hard rock mining, the challenges associated with pollutions and all this are minimal. So they are doing well. Recently, the government also brought in mercury-free processing of gold, and it's also an aspect we can commend them for. So we will suggest that it's hard time Ghana take a second look at the sector. The fight shouldn't always be fighting, sending soldiers, and then going to go and raid people, ban excavators here and there, but rather, the fight should be on making positive, putting positive measures in place that will stop the Chinese from coming. If we have finance here, if there is a well laid down policy to finance small-scale miners in terms of setting up plant pools, no one will go for this Chinese. But most of the time, it's because people don't actually get access to some of these basic capital inflows to do mining. That's where people are tempted to It's not. They don't have to do it, but see, sometimes not everybody who understand the ethics of the business. People will be compared to depend on some of these Chinese and all this. So we have to take a second look. More so now that economies are downturn, and we need to look at sectors that will be able to generate money for the sector. Interestingly, gold from the small-scale mining sector, we could have like 5-7 billion in terms of foreign exchange coming to Ghana. You understand? So it's not something that we have to, joke with. We can turn it around, and at the end of the day, Ghana will be the beneficiary of a well-laid-down reform, devoid of political influence on all these negatives that are not helping the sector.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Francis Poku, SPRO of the Small Scale Miners Association. And just a couple of messages that have coming on the matter. I'll just take two that interest me. He says, Alan in Chantan says he's saddened by what he's hearing. He says, we pray and sing that God should bless our homeland, Ghana. And yet when he does, we invite foreigners to come and mess up our resources. Can we go to China, for instance, and do what the Chinese are doing here? What is wrong with us? Good morning, Citi. Abdul Razak from Baku says the push of the government and successive government appears to be fighting the canker in our mining sector, but in reality, it's not. In reality, they are not. We must up our game. So those are two important messages that have been shared on this matter. And my personal thoughts on this is that, look, the whole Aisha Huang situation, like I say, she's a representation of what happens in our space. There are many Aisha Huangs. There are a lot of spaces, there are opportunities that our system, our institutions provide that should not be allowed. The fact that she was able to come through in situations where you would normally struggle to come through is something that we need to improve. The fact that those who have normally, those in the tech space who are, for instance, have openly spoken about the need to quickly make our security apparatus and our digital systems a bit more interactive, friendly, forward-facing with each other, but normally face criticism as if they are against the entire system. Perhaps listen to their advice a bit more, because my good friend Eric, as he said, the NIA system flagged Aisha Huang, but she was allowed to go through for a particular reason. Perhaps if the system worked the way it was supposed to work, when she was deported and her name red flagged, Ghana immigration systems, which will flag Aisha Huang if she does come through, would have spoken to the NIA system that, look, this is somebody who has issues in this country, and so perhaps you should alert the authorities. So in building the architecture, let's do it. It's very important that we are working on it, but perhaps it's time to also develop a cohesive approach to it rather than the silo approach that we seem to have with our digital architecture at the moment. The rest, I think Francis Poku in his first part has said it. The politicians, all those who are involved in this, the locals, the collaborators, as Eric has said, we need to do better if this war on Galamsey is to be won. So I'll take another break. When we return, we'll stay with tech. Today we are tech heavy. The NCA is doing things that a lot of people are not happy with. The communications ministry as well, a lot of people are not happy with. And we will try and break down this whole SIM card registration exercise when the big issue returns. Welcome back to the big issue on Citi TV and Citi 97.3 FM. And a couple more messages that have come through. Kofi Taki also in Ashaiman says, why are we so happy and obsessed with naming and shaming when the greedy creatures care less? It should be naming, prosecuting, retrieving stolen wealth, jailing to destroy them. And if that translates to shaming, hallelujah. I back this message fully from Kofi Taki in Ashaiman. Yes, it's true. I like what the gentleman said. That is Francis Opoku. Politicians should not be involved in mining. Just like what is in the music industry. If you're the president of music industry, you stop playing music. Also, I entreat you stop making music rather. I shouldn't play the music. Also, I entreat you to take up what Francis said seriously. I hear you, Max from Adenta. And then this one says, Galamsey is destroying the Asankragwa Inchi road. That road is a death trap. Have you used that road recently? Asankragwa Inchi. Okay. And then, so these are some of the messages that have come in. So let's talk SIM cards. And this is something that affects basically everybody. Most people in this country use cell phone, be it digital, be it analog. And SIM card users who have not re-registered their SIM cards this week have started facing some punitive actions. And this is according to new directives that came from the NCA. We also saw a lot of people gravitate towards the self-service app to register their SIM card. So we put together a bit of a report that tells us the story so far of what has happened this week since these punitive measures came into play. And then once we return, we'll have a conversation about that.
On the back of the directive issued by the National Communications Authority, indicating to the general public of its intention to bar outgoing calls and data access to those who have not registered their SIM cards. We are now here at the North Industrial Area in Kaneshie to basically engage with some of the people who have very genuine concerns. Some are saying they've done the registration with their cards, but they are unable to access the network. Let's engage some of them to find out what the situation is with them. My name is Fred. What's your full name, sir?
Yeah, my name is S.A. Kwe. We are having challenges on our network system, especially the MTN. Okay. This morning, I woke up at around 5:30 a.m. I was able to make call, access my internet outside. But just a couple of hours ago, I couldn't make anything. It is showing no network on my phone. I couldn't do anything, no WhatsApp, nothing.
But in normal circumstances, one would have thought that you remove the SIM card or put off the phone and probably reboot or do some sort of reshoot of the phone to find out if there is any troubleshooting problems with it. Have you done any of that?
No. I just woke up. I made calls this very morning from 5 a.m. up to 6, 7. So when I left home to the office this very morning, I was trying to call some of my colleagues. Unfortunately for me to see that it is reading no network on my phone.
Let's see. Demonstrate to us what the situation is.
How the problem is coming. I'm calling my son from Kumasi now. And now when I call, this is what is written there.
Okay, so we can see on the phone, that you have no registered, not registered on network.
Registered with my.
When did you register your SIM?
Some time ago, when they started the first time. I did with my Ghana card and everything. I don't have only one, I have about 2-3 lines.
Do you have any issues with the registration process?
No. Registration process was solid. But it was only this morning I had this very problem on my phone. My MTN, the main line I normally use. Call my friends outside and everywhere. When I call anybody, even WhatsApp is not working.
Yes, the queue is actually building up. People are joining from behind. And when they come here, they are attended to by the MTN officer here. I can see he's taking the gentleman through the process. There is an officer here probably I would want to engage behind the scene. Please tell us what the situation is over here.
Well, the situation right now here, actually, myself this morning when I was coming to work, my line was going through. All of a sudden, I realized my line is not going through again. So I tried checking my phone. When I dialed *124, I had a different message all over, which I cannot even make call or receive any call again. So that is the situation here now. We also hope and wish that things will be okay with that. Yes, it's true, they keep blaming the company MTN as well, but it's not MTN, you know. I don't think it's MTN, it's NCA. Because myself, when I dial *24 hash, this is what I can see.
I can see not registered on network. You can't be a staff and not register. So meaning you've registered, yet still they've disconnected your line.
Yes, this is the feedback it's giving me as at now, and it's still going on here. So we wish things will be okay.
Are you here for the first registration, or you've done it already?
I've done it already. This is my.
The National Communications Authority, NCA, in a letter on Friday, 2nd September, announced to all mobile network operators that starting Monday, 5th September, It is instituting some sanctions against mobile network subscribers who are yet to re-register their SIM cards. The NCA in the letter also reminded SIM card users that it will stick to its 30th September deadline of SIM registration exercise and all unregistered SIM cards will be blocked. In an interview with Citi News, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, Dr. Kenneth Akshibe, noted that the measures are in place to urge all persons who have the Ghana card but have still not registered to do so.
You know that since the minister announced that there was going to be a conditional extension of the SIM registration on the 28th of July, there were 2,580 something people who were registering. By the 18th of August, it has dropped to around 5,000, about a 98% decrease. So definitely, there are people who have the Ghana cards who are not registering. And that something needs to be done to ensure that they are able to register. So this punitive action is to enable those who have the Ghana cards to do it.
Dr. Kenneth Achibe encouraged those who are unable to register their SIM cards because of genuine issues they have with the Ghana card and may subsequently be affected by the sanction regime to petition the NCA on the plight.
For me, my appeal is that the government working together with the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization, Ministry of Interior, the two ministries for the NIA and then the NCA, can get these two entities to work together so that those who genuinely are unable to register, we are able to resolve the challenges for them.
Citi News checks at some registration centers in the Ashanti region, however, show that it appears many persons are so far not aware of the sanctions, as just a few persons have visited registration centers to register their SIM cards. Some of them have been speaking to Citi News about the sanctions.
I think it's individual difference because some calls are really important. Maybe there's an emergency, you are trying to reach someone within some few minutes, and because of this, you can't get.
Okay, I said it's a good idea for government ministers to do that thing for the Ghanaians. So even in Ouagadougou, I'm from Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. There, when you buy your SIM card today, you have to register at the same time before you go and use it. If you didn't register, you can't use it. So I think it's a good idea for minister to do that thing.
Now, based on the sanctions that will be placed on unregistered SIM cards, one will assume that many persons who have the Ghana cards but are yet to get their SIM registered will mass up at various registration centers to get their SIM registered. That, however, seems not to be the case because Citi News checks at some registration centers in Kumasi show that just a few people have visited to get their SIM registered.
Yes, so that was a report from my colleagues in the Ashanti region and also in Accra, Fred Duho, as what you had Fred Duho in the first part. So that's what's been happening, and I'm sure most of you at home are scratching your heads. Well, if your SIM is registered and is working, you don't have a problem. The issue is those who've registered and some way, somehow have become victims of this. And I'll start the conversation with Maximo Sameto, who is a tech analyst. For those of you who watch the Breakfast Daily, he's no stranger to you. You'll be seeing him. You've seen him quite regularly on that platform. I have a couple of questions for Max, but not before I talk about the literacy challenge, our own Citi literacy challenge, grand finale today, grand finale. I'm looking forward to that one, and after rigorous levels of competition, we have top 10 for the grand finale, and the winner is taking home 10,000 Ghana cedis and the Vodafone Ghana Foundation pack, which includes a laptop with a free 1-year data subscription, instant school ambassador. The first runner-up takes home a tablet and free 6 months of data subscription. That's cool. That's really cool. The second runner-up would also take home a tablet and 3 months free data subscription. All other contestants will be given 1 month free data subscription. And there'll also be other prizes such as customized school bags with learning materials for the top 10, 5 exercise books for each top 10. And these prizes are sponsored by the Vodafone Foundation as part of the Kindred partners. So the fight is on to be crowned the most outstanding JHS student in Ghana. And it's happening today at the Alisa Hotel, North Ridge, powered by 97.3 Citi FM with support from Citi TV and proudly sponsored by the Vodafone Ghana Foundation as part of the Kindred Partners, Ghana National Gas Company, Prospectus Ghana Limited, Dext Technology Limited, Alive Soap, and Invest Corp Management Limited. That's the literacy challenge. So definitely happening from 1:30. You will be able to watch the grand finale on DSTV channel 363 and on the Go TV channel 182. So the City Literacy Challenge finale is on. So Max, this for where do you fall? Do you fall with the crowd that says these punitive measures needed to come into play to get people to register? Because we saw the numbers. Once the deadline ended, everybody went home. Nobody was registering. The communications minister had indicated there will be measures. Then Monday, we get this list, and then a day afterwards, I think even that same Monday, they started working on some of these punitive measures.
Yeah.
Where do you stand?
I am of the view that we should do the SIM card re-registration for over a longer period. Ghana is not going anywhere. Neither is the telecom company or industry shutting down. Right? The fact that we want to register the thing within the project timeline does not mean that we should create more inconvenience for people who don't have Ghana card, who for some reasons can't go and get their Ghana card, or who for some reason they are not even close to a registration center where they can go and even register their SIM cards. Usually when you see in the news, what you see is that they show the experience centers of maybe an MTN or a Vodafone or a Tigo, which is not even distributed evenly across the country. That, okay, people have stopped registering or people are no more going there to register. It doesn't show a clear picture of what is happening nationwide. Now, there is a basic tool that we need to do the SIM card registry, the Ghana card. It's not been designed to meet deadlines. You are supposed to keep registering. Neither is SIM card even has a deadline. I can buy a SIM card today if I have a Ghana card or this and start using it. So after we even do the re-registration or whatever, people will still be buying SIM cards anyway. So why are we rushing to create so much inconvenience for a product that is supposed to bring convenience to people, right? And if you are going to graduate even the services, I would even recommend that, okay, people who already have Ghana card, who haven't registered for their SIM card registration, then you put a timeline to their registration, then you can graduate their services, right? But if you blanket it like that, even some people who have even registered had their numbers blocked.
That's
So
another issue.
that inconvenience, who pays for it? Right? So it's becoming more difficult, and from the statistics, about 16 million people haven't done the second phase of the re-registration. So are you going to block all of them? And that's why they are saying they are chunking them. So you are doing maybe every 48 hours, they block a block of the subscribers. Then after that, you do it again. All those things, you are just creating inconvenience for a sector that is very viable. You see, a chip is an economic resource. It's not just something small in a mobile device. I use it to do my business transactions. I pay taxes on it, e-levy and the rest are being collected. Yes, right. Government is making money from telcos because of the SIM cards that we have. Now, when you measure the cost of blocking millions of cards as against the so-called reason for doing the SIM card registration was cybercrime, you realize that the cost for blocking the numbers will be way higher than the fraud, the cost of perpetrating those fraud stuff. Now, the telcos, mind you, always block numbers that are used for fraudulent this already. So you SMS to the 419 short code, any number that's trying to defraud you, and they block those numbers, right? So those setups are already there. Now, very soon, the telcos will come and tell government that you block maybe 4 million people or 6 million people, 48 hours, every 2 days for the next how many months. So our profits have reduced by 30%, 40%, and our cost has increased by whatever. And then you realize they are going to pay less than half of the taxes they've paid last year. Who is going to lose? Government is going to lose. May I see a SIM card in a cocoa tree? Right? The fact that people smuggle cocoa doesn't mean that we should register every cocoa tree, and then if you don't register, you should cut it down. Right? How do we make sure that we close in the gap? Those who are using it for fraudulent activities, there's a public service advertising that you can do. If an unknown number calls me, trying to sell me something that I don't have any business transaction with, when you educate me enough, I will not engage in that social engineering process, so I become a victim of fraud. So the minister has to reconsider her stand and let people register the SIM cards, right, over a period. Don't 30th September, trust me, it will create more problems.
But she seems determined to let this work within a time frame. And maybe perhaps should the question we should put to her not be something you've alluded to? How big is the problem? Maybe you are not justifying it well enough. Maybe there might be a bigger problem than we actually see.
Yeah, so
which requires a deadline. So
see, SIM card is just a subscriber identification stuff. If it's just an application on the chip, I can use this phone if I have a Wi-Fi without a SIM card. I don't need a SIM card. Cellular calls, fine. Mobile money, yes. So who is going to lose when I'm not doing mobile money? People already even stop using mobile money because of e-levy, right? So data, I can still use my phone to make internet calls, either use a Facebook Messenger or whatever, and I can still make a call if I have a Wi-Fi. I don't need a SIM card. Who is going to lose? Government is not going to get money from that economic resource called a chip, right? So if the minister is going to follow her deadline by 30th September and block millions of people, I think she has to come and account to Ghanaians whether the re-registration solved a smaller problem or a bigger problem or created a massive problem for a sector that has been growing. Some of us are advocates of what the Vice President has been doing all this year, the digitalization. And we are pushing for digital inclusion, right? So SIM card identification is not the only way to identify internet users or online users, right? So the fact that I can go to a Gmail and create an account and I can use it to defraud people, I'm not using a SIM card. I can create several accounts on different platforms, not using a SIM card. So why are you pushing it as if the SIM card is the cause of all the cyber crime in the country and then the fraud happening? For that matter, you are going to disconnect people because they haven't registered their SIM card, maybe because they don't have the Ghana card, which is the basic this thing you need. And even the whole concept of the SIM card re-registration self-service application.
Yes, I was going to say that since you've entered there. Yeah. People seem to have a lot of problems with it because there are people who are being charged monies.
Yes.
And are unable to continue the process after the money has been deducted.
Yeah.
And some have been paid twice.
In fact, multiple times. Some people have been deducted multiple times because of how the whole registration process has been designed. Now, if you have designed it to solve a problem, you make sure the person finished the registration, input their biometric and everything. Then you authenticate that registration by the payment. You don't input your name and or the Ghana card. Then you move me to payment. Then you bring me back to biometric data. There will always be a break when there's traffic. So that's what is causing the issue. Now, why do we have a foreign company doing the SIM card re-registration for us? Right? A Nigerian company doing the card registration owned by Nigerians. I don't see any Ghanaian in it. And when you go to the App Store, the app is in the name of the company, not NCA, not Ministry of Communication. They could have easily paid the $75 and have an app account created for them on Google Play Store. So that when I go and even try to download the app, I see NCA as the owner of the app or Ministry of Communication as the owner of the app. You want to verify people, but we don't want to show your identity on the app stores by way of the owner of the app. So am I giving my data to the Nigerian company
or NCA?
Right? When you search for the app, you realize there are different types of SIM re-registration apps on the App Store. So Excel, who owns the app, are they a Ghanaian company? What is the relationship between them and NCA and then Ministry for Communications? That when I go there, because I see Ghana map on the icon, then it means that is the authentic or the main app, so I download it. It doesn't make sense. Yesterday, I tried registering even for some people who have been blocked. And then when you input the number, after creating the account, and you get to inputting your PIN, and then there's always error, about 4 or 5 people. So are you solving a problem by creating that? And mind you, she promised that the app was going to come on the 2nd of August. It came on the 24th of August. Right? So you couldn't even meet your deadline. And this thing, you should have even done it from the beginning, that this is a self-service app that you can use so that we can reduce the traffic to the telecom experience centers. So that if I sit at home, I can even do the re-registration. And then don't forget that the telcos pay for every registration they are doing using the app that they are using. They are also paying the money. Who is making that money? So for me, you are just using inconvenience to sell a product that's supposed to create convenience.
Interesting thoughts from Maximus Ametogo, who is a tech analyst, putting things in perspective from his side. And like I said, Eric primarily deals in tech. So today he's in his comfort zone. Well, look, tech is supposed to, I agree with everything Max says on, tech is supposed to make lives convenient for people. This is very inconvenient for a lot of people, no matter what way you look at it, Eric.
Thank you very much. I mean, in my early years, we used to call it ubiquity. That's what it's supposed to do. But you see, we're looking at these things from a totally different perspective, if you ask me. I mean, I've done telco, especially for probably 20 years or so. My first job was at Orange. That was like 20-something years ago. I've done Tigo and all of those things. So I understand the space. And I'm one of those people who would definitely understand why it's important that people have access to mobile handsets. And I mean, its impact economically over the last 20, 25 years on a global scale, it's phenomenal. I mean, I was one of the first project leads for Tigo Cash. We went all the way to Kenya to study M-Pesa, money from the Mobile Money Fund, the Bill Gates Foundation, you know, all of those things, and how today, I mean, even in our jurisdiction, mobile money is like a quarter of our GDP. You know, so I understand the space. Then you also have to look at it from a government perspective or in a public policy perspective. And why is it important that you have integrity in terms of the data that you have when it comes to SIM subscribers? And you see, sometimes because I have a certain orientation, when people critique government policies or public policy decisions, I really would give that to them, because that's the whole idea. I mean, in almost all the things that we implement, even on the commercial basis, you'd have to have people punch holes in them, give you feedback, or that's how you're actually able to perfect a system. And so for me, my orientation always is that let's find out where the issues are and fix those issues. But it will be almost a disservice to even the entire people of this country to just throw the whole public policy position of SIM registration away by virtue of the fact that people are having challenges. You understand? Because, I mean, a couple of months ago, there was this UK company that were on my case because they know that I've worked in the space, trying to purchase data. And data is gold. We're talking about mining gold and all of those things and all of those things that people are prepared to. Data is more valuable than gold. when it comes to making either commercial decisions, public service decisions, and all of those things. They wanted to make sure to find out if we have data that I can vouch for its integrity, because they want to come into the country and all of those things. So you need your phone number, age, the whole demographics that comes with it, and all of those things. We couldn't find it. You understand? Because I've worked in the telcos before, and not to try and create any bad thing for people. People were doing pre-registration. The sales guy in the region has a target to meet, to sell 500,000 SIM cards, right? People would go into a room somewhere, or even the people within the value chain would just register. One person can register 2,000 SIM cards and just starts giving it away. Now, we're talking about cybercrime. People are also forgetting about issues to do with national security, terrorism, and all of those things. You understand what I'm saying? So it's okay to punch holes and try and create a certain perception that, oh, this whole thing is a nuisance and government is actually not touched. You see, that's why I always say that there's something called, if you like, intellectual arrogance. You know, it's almost as if that everybody within the public sector space has absolutely no brain in their head. There's nothing there. And that we can't think through some of these issues. But then again, my orientation always is that let's fix the challenge. Like Max, right?
Yeah.
Was talking about. There are some technical issues that, as far as I'm concerned, once you go through a proper protocol process, these little hitches and all these bugs should have been fixed. Yeah. And so for me, then my call is that let's fix those issues. Let's make sure that the telcos, the NIA, and the NCA are in sync with each other. But to rubbish the whole process...
But I don't think the whole process has been rubbish.
No,
I think
I'm just
people
saying,
are worried by the general
I
inconvenience.
understand, but there's also you see, every single public policy position would inconvenience certain people. And then, so you have to just take a step back and look at it in its entirety in terms of how the big picture perspective of where we want to go, right? And fix the issue. So even if you want to even ensure that the same sort of prudence and the same level of compliance that the minister is expecting of us, if you ask that the minister or the ministry should also be up to the same standards, I won't have a problem with that. You understand what I'm saying? By my very orientation. But let's make sure that it is not... You see, for example, this issue today is cybercrime. It goes beyond just people calling you on the phone and you understand. So because you see, anytime there's something to do with crime, right, it has repercussions because there are people involved. Almost all the time, when we talk about these things, it becomes statistics, especially you guys in the media. So 2 people, 3 people, whatever. But all these people are human beings that are affected. Sometimes people lose their entire savings by virtue of somebody sitting. I hear that there are people who are even in prison and they're not supposed to even have access to mobile phones to start with, who are actually the ones making the calls. Every single day you hear one of them. People telling you that they want to put you on a platform, a particular WhatsApp group, and they're trying to give them your pain and all that. You know, so I believe that as we're going forward and even there's a certain level of compliance and we are fixing the challenges. I mean, I like the call of even, maybe it should be a bit open-ended. But the truth of the matter is that we also know how some of our people would also behave. The mere fact that it is an open-ended process means that people will not take the trouble to actually go and have their SIM registered or not. You know, there have been calls. I mean, I'm having friends who are outside of the country who are trying to register because either they haven't had access to the NIA card, for example, and all of those. So those are things that, by and large, for me, can be fixed. And then the issues with people who have gone through the process already, have registered, and have are still blocked. I mean, as I sit here, someone is sending me a message. I tell them that my SIM has been blocked as well. You understand? And I'm supposed, you understand? So all I'm saying is that let's take it once. Of course, they're going through a legal challenge, and that's the beauty of democracy, right? And you see the NCA also coming to court with a bunch of documents and statutes and acts that actually tells them that they have the right to do that. But statistics, the data integrity, for me is extremely important. National security implications and all of those things are very important. You see, we're talking about, it's a digression. We're talking about Aisha Huang a couple of minutes ago. And you see the same people, the very people who would be up in arms and be making all sorts of statements and everything when something goes awry, are the same people who, when certain things are being put in place to ensure that we forestall some of these challenges, are also not in favor of these positions. So I believe that, yes, let's fix the challenges. That's the reason why, as a government, we have been given the mandate to govern. Sometimes these are hard decisions. So if there are people who are, for one reason or another, are being affected because they cannot go through the self-service process because the app itself is not up to scratch or there's some challenges, let's fix it. Let's have
who pays for the cost of the failed public policy?
You see, it's not a failed public policy.
I'm just saying.
You see,
the implementation phase.
You see,
to it.
So for me, I would always say that these are things that you would have to probably also ensure that there's a proper communication to why you're doing what you're doing. In the last few days, you're a sports guy. In the last few days, by an act of God, so it's a natural occurrence, people will die. The Queen passes away. And I was listening to the news on some small events and all sorts of things that have been cancelled. People have had to pay artists and done all sorts of things. Premiership games have been cancelled and all of those things, right? And you'll be thinking, well, why would they do that? So it's how these things are communicated, how these policy decisions impact people. However, we can not play ignorant. The reality on the ground is that anytime you want to implement any of these things, there are a certain group of people who, for one reason or the other, will be adversely affected.
Point on me.
Right? But you need to put in place measures to ensure that either you mitigate those things when it does happen, or you actually even minimize the impact, the negative impact on that.
Let me bring in Selon Brantier, Vice President Imani Africa, who is considering, he's part of a group of people who are considering a legal suit on this particular matter. He's been trying to get others who are affected by the situation to sign on. And Selom, I'm sure you'd have heard Eric's take on the matter and Maximus's analysis of the situation. As he says, from Eric's perspective, every public policy will have collateral damage. Why are we complaining about this one? When we must ultimately look for the greater good. The greater good is that SIM registration is necessary, must be done by citizens for the state to move on.
Thank you. Eric, we're looking really good. It's been a while. But,
long time.
You have been very, very diplomatic about the situation, and you are trying to really water down the ramifications of such horrendous decision-making. And let's look at it like this. This didn't just pop up out of the blue. It has been a cascading effect of one decision causing one problem after the other, after the other, after the other. Even, let's start from the beginning. You are handling a public policy activity or a public activity that has a sole, or I would say a singular criterion, which is the Ghana card. We are in a situation where logistically we know that those who are providing the Ghana card have massive challenges in terms of logistics reach, an ability to even solve and fix simple problems related to the collection, acquisition of the card, printing of the card, etc. When we make these policy decisions and we limit them to our experiences in highly urbanized areas like Accra and Kumasi and Takoradi, then we fail to have a great picture or the best picture. But if you thought about somebody who lived in the backyards of Seshurioso or somewhere behind Palugu or Gambaga, then you would realize that the true implications of some of these policy decisions really are far-reaching, and we are trying to create. We have SDG goals, for example, that talk about digital inclusion, inclusion of vulnerable people in the provision of essential services. We are talking about trying to enhance digitization across the whole country, and trying to let it reach different people. In fact, the government has spent millions of dollars, and we pay taxes amounting to millions of cedis annually to facilitate activities like what GFEC is trying to do in the rural areas, etc. Very recently, the communications minister traveled all the way to somewhere in the western region to outdoor a mast that was supposed to provide digital services to local people as part of the digital outreach. To do all of that and then suddenly decide that you are going to immediately cut off people who have legitimately, and let's note that this policy is an iteration of a previous policy of SIM registration, where everybody who has a SIM today has had it registered and activated with a nationally recognized biometric ID.
Not true.
So this is not the first rodeo. And I hear you saying that's not true. It's true. Every SIM card that is active today
it can be registered. One individual can register
it doesn't
2,000,
matter
20,000, and it will be being used by certain people.
If you can identify the same person.
It doesn't matter. It has
it will be being used by
every SIM card today can be tied to an individual. Let's not forget that. Every SIM card can be tied to an individual. We are doing a second iteration of it where we are saying that we need only the Ghana card to do that. The problem here is that the Ghana card itself, the process that leads to the obtaining of that Ghana card is an arduous process that even has problems right from obtaining all the way down to collection of these Ghana cards. There are so many people who can't even trace where they can collect their Ghana cards and can't get new ones because they have been told to go and find their Ghana cards. And then you need police affidavits and so many different conditions to even rectify simple things like spelling mistakes, change of maiden name, etc. And people have to travel from wherever they live to Accra to fix these problems. And when you have all of these existing preconditions, and then you decide that, any policy that you do, there will be collateral. This is a very, very trivialized approach to very serious, sensitive problems. One of the co-claimants for our proposed lawsuit is a woman who has just undergone cesarean section, and she cannot access her banking, she cannot access anything because she had changed her name. And the banks will not accept her previous ID. Nobody is accepting her previous ID. With the cut on her stomach and a nursing child, she has to travel all the way from Doma to Accra to come and fix this issue. And yet, you have the sector minister, the Minister of Communication, herself saying very publicly in the last paragraph of a statement she made on Facebook 3 days ago that if you do not have if you're inaction, nobody should be blamed for your inaction. I mean, that is a very, very sensitive statement that is enforcing a kind of digital apartheid. And it is very, very egregious that in this time when we are in an era of servant leadership, we have people who still have that mentality and treat Ghanaians, people who have voted for them, who have put them into power to make decisions for their welfare, to come and say that because of systemic, inefficiencies, they have to pay for it, and they have to pay a very dear price for it. Because we are talking about people who have been barred from making phone calls or using their phones for services they have already paid for, and legally binding preconditions that they already have. And we are talking about something like this, which is in the realm of retroactive legislation, which is against the tenets of the rule of law as we know it. And we are saying that these people should pay the price for the inefficiencies and the whimsical attitude of somebody who has the power of executive fiat. Is that how we are trying to run this country? Secondly, you came and you talked about the fact that we have to enhance security and terrorism and all of that. All well and good. Do you know that there are 5 very huge problems with the app, the SIM re-registration app that we have. The hashing algorithms under it are insecure because they are not encrypted very well. And these are things that the security assessment of the app itself would even tell you. And it means that what we are saying is even secure, even by first principle, it's not even secure. You move on to another aspect of it. You can easily game this SIM re-registration application because the fact that you are taking pictures of your hand to register this SIM card is even very problematic. The reason why I say that is because if I was using that same application and I took a picture of my son's hand, it will still take it and say that it is a picture of my hand. So it means that the same things that you are trying to say is being circumvented because the app itself was poorly designed. And that is the truth of the matter. The app itself does not solve the problem of security, does not solve the problem of aiding terrorism because people can actually take pictures of different hands. And the reason why this happens is because of one simple thing. We have refused to tackle the problem at the root. The NIA's platform cannot see the same, re-registration registry or database. And you cannot verify biometric data collected by this same re-registration activity from the NIA platform. You cannot. The reason why you cannot is because
just let me come in. Let me ask you a question here, because this is something that I've heard. I interviewed Professor Atefa about a month ago, and he did make this point that he's seen what the telcos are doing, what the NCA is doing, but in the end, if they bring the data and it doesn't sync,
it is moot.
Then
it
they
won't
will
sync.
take it from
That
there.
is the truth of the matter.
But then, if they know this, why are the telcos complying with what obviously looks like a waste of time?
It is a waste of time. It doesn't look like a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time. Why do you collect data in one silo and then pretend that you are saying it protects us when the main thing is supposed to verify against, it cannot be done against? Because let me tell you, technically, when you take a picture of your hand, it's a JPEG image. That JPEG image, you cannot get the fingerprint details in a way that it will be, you'll be able to get the details to align with a different type of format that is used for fingerprint capture. That is why when you are capturing fingerprints, you use a specialized fingerprint scanner, which has its own algorithms that check the pattern of your fingerprints against certain preconceived patterns and encryptions. So I know I'm going technical here, but the fact of the matter is very simple. It is like comparing a bucket of water to a bucket of paint and trying to say that a bucket of water and a bucket of paint are the same. That is what this whole thing is about. And then going beyond that, you have this system where the intermediating people, the people who captured the data are this, the telcos. They are obligated to do so because they are under the NCA's, umbrella. The NCA is their mother regulator. They have to comply by the rules that NCA provides, else they will be sanctioned and their licenses will be revoked. But mind you, the telcos or the service providers, and I would include also the internet service providers here, are only an outlet through which the registration is being done. Now, this means that they are providing their offices and their services as a place where people can register the SIMs. The SIMs belong to individuals. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the telcos. They belong to individuals. Once you purchase a SIM, it belongs to you. You have an agreement with the telco on the rules and conditions under which you use the SIM. That is why you have to pay for certain bundles and things like that. Beyond that, the telcos are also under the NCA, which is the authority that gives them the license or grants them the license to run this particular service. Now, the issue here is this. The telcos are not the ones who built the software that captures the data. It is a separate entity that built the software. Yesterday, I was on a different forum with the head of legal of the NCA. And when I mentioned this, he told me, or he said emphatically, and it is on record, that they endorse the application and they are the ones that put the application out. But it beggars belief to think that that is a genuine statement, especially coming from the head of legal of this entity, especially when you think about the fact that on every public record that is on Google Play, the app ownership is a private company. And that private company is the one that is responsible for the data set that is extracted, for which the list of people whose calls are to be barred were taken from. The question now is, what is the accuracy of the information such that when they were pulling out the data set to bar people who had genuinely gone through every single part of the registration and had a B cap status that returned yes, were also roped in and barred. These people have been denied of a service for which they were paid for which they had updated and taken action, including going to stand and queue for hours and days to fix this their registration status. And yet they were blocked for a service they had already prepaid for under the terms and conditions that have been outlined by the regulator and by the telco. All these people have been affected, and we are trying to say that, oh, these are small issues. No, there are huge issues here. There are people that have lost business because of this. There are doctors who have not been able to reach patients because of this. There are people who would have been in different emergencies who have lost 48 hours of active telephonic service because of the whimsical attitude of those who are in the executive position, who should have seen to it that the right policy implementation measures could have been done. Because when you plan things on paper and you even plan it to the best of your ability, the issues are that once there are many variables, you would have so many different things coming up in real life that you have to anticipate and plan all of this. In Eric Holden brief for the NCA and all of that, I have never heard him say, and the NCA never did, neither did any of the sector players from the government side ever even have a forum for redress where people who had genuine issues could have gone to have their issues attended to. They are not even still considering that aspect of it, and they are firefighting left, right, center, trying to fix a huge mess that they have produced. I really wish that on September 30th, they will go ahead and block all SIMs in Ghana, and they would realize something very funny. This country's service sector contributes 45% or more. It grows annually year by year of our GDP. And yet we are treating it like a petri dish of poor policy implementation. And we, the people, are expected to sit down and put our hands up in there and say that, oh, these are trivial issues that, you see, if we sat down, we should have sat down a long time ago. There was a lot of time and there were a lot of stakeholders who were issuing and coming up with many different caveats. All of these caveats were ignored. We were told that we were being lamenting whatever. We were told that we're stubborn academy, we're this, we're that. But when we, for the interest of the nation, see inefficiencies that need to be tackled and tackled head on, and we are branded instead of the right thing being done, these are the consequences. And somebody has to pay for these things to tell a cautionary tale that in future, when we take these executive decisions, we have to take our offices seriously. We have to understand the gravity of our reasoning, our approach, our attitude, and the logistics around it to ensure that we provide the best and most optimal situations for people of this country. We deserve no better because we have taken time to comply with a lot of these things, and we have voted for these things not to be happening. So if they are happening and the people who cause it to happen, who trigger this domino effects to be happening, are recalcitrant and they are headstrong and they are pig-headed about their approach to this, then they must be dealt with.
Three minutes.
Well, I think that Salom has been a little bit unfair to me because I actually acknowledge the fact that those issues should be resolved. But then, you see, what he didn't do is to also acknowledge the fact that in the wisdom, I mean the generality of why it is important that we have this registration. If you throw, as in local parlance, if you want to put it that way, the baby away with the bathwater, these are some of the challenges that you would get. I am always open to the fact that when these challenges come and people have or express disquiet because of a public policy position has been taken, by all means, let's resolve it. But there's can you imagine if something untoward happens in this country and it's traced down to the fact that the person or the individuals involved were as a result because we couldn't track them or they were operating in the system? That also becomes, it's legitimate. That also becomes a position that you can take, and that means that government has checked its responsibility and hasn't been up to scratch and has been reactive instead of being proactive and all of those things, right? And so sometimes in some of these conversations, you always have to come to a certain middle ground. I understand the technicalities that comes with these things. And so I have a certain appreciation of why and the position has been taken by Salom and Max and Co and other people. And even in my case, I mean, of course, if I had an opportunity to scrutinize the app and how it is for fit for purpose and all of those things, I'll make a professional assessment of it and all of those things, right? But you see, because it's a conversation, there's so many people out there, and so what about all the millions of Ghanaians who have been able to go through the process and have their SIM cards registered? And now we have some kind of integrity when it comes to the database. You can use it statistically, properly. You go to the NCA's website in terms of even what's the reasons behind the SIM re-registration. You cannot contest the reasons why, the rationale behind that and all of those things. And so let's take that position. I believe that even with these concerns that have been taken, let's put it together. Let's create a platform to ensure that one by one these issues are dealt with.
But here's a situation where it does not look like
but you see,
the regulator is even willing to engage.
But that is not the case because, I mean, this process, if I remember correctly, was meant to have truncated in June sometime, right?
Yeah.
Right? And then by virtue of this same engagements and all that, an extension had been granted. Now we've got into this point. And I believe strongly that, yes, let's continue to engage. There's absolutely nothing that is set in stone. Let's continue to engage and fix the issues.
Give me a second. I've been joined by a member of Parliament for Nego Pampa, Sam George. I don't know whether he's the technical director or he's the coach or he's the headmaster or captain of what has popularly been called Stubborn Academy. But what is not in doubt is he works on the Communications Committee of Parliament. And they've been talking about this from the minority side at least. Sam, first of all, let me just ask this. You saw the directives from the National Communications Authority on Monday. The minority side, at least, we heard from Mr. A.B. Husseini on Thursday. Did you not notice it lacked legal backing on Monday when it came? The response, in my estimation, was late.
Well, good morning to your listeners and to your panelists. The response was not late. We had responded same day. There were several responses on the media platforms. We responded on social media as well, same day, where we stated that those directives were vexatious and obnoxious and an abuse of Article 296 of the Constitution, which confers administrative powers. Because bear in mind, those directives are not backed by any law in Ghana.
So why are people complying? Why are the telcos complying?
Relax. I'll explain that. They are simply an exercise of administrative power, which a legislative instrument confers on the NCA. But those administrative powers are regulated by Article 296, which says that you can exercise them in a vexatious or capricious manner. Now, you ask why the telcos are compliant. And I spoke with the telcos, a number of senior persons in the telcos yesterday, and called them out and said that the suits that we are supporting to go to court will attach them and seek remedies from the telcos as well. And so they will pay a price for listening and abiding by a directive that they know is wrong, that they have told, and let's put it on record, the telcos have made it clear to the NCA and the minister that her directives are inimical for the growth of the industry.
Well, they haven't said so publicly, they've said so privately.
Because they are afraid. And you know what they said to me? They said, Sam, we understand what you are saying, but one telco, who is actually the biggest player in the industry, has over 70% of the market as we speak now, MTN, stood up to the minister when the minister wanted illegal access to the financial details of their subscribers, went to court and challenged the minister and the NCA. They won that case. What did the minister do? Slapped them with a punitive measure of labeling them an SMP. And that has affected MTN heavily. No other telco in this country can survive it. So you have a minister who is carrying out digital xenophobia. Our minister she She's basically what you would call a digital narcissist. She's using her powers arbitrarily to impose digital xenophobia. If you stand against her for what is right and you are under her administrative power, she will clamp down on you in a way that will kill your business. And ask yourself, when she took over that sector in 2017, there were 4 active thriving telecom companies. As we speak now, there is only one that can have a semblance of thriving, but that's even struggling, MTN. Airtel is dead. Tigo is dead. Their illicit child, Airtel Tigo, is in the ICU, seeking ways of survival. Vodafone, which has a majority shareholder, Vodacom UK, which is the 3rd largest telecom company in the world, is looking for someone to take it off their hands because they say Ghana's market is toxic. That is the legacy of Eflowusu. And so you have a draconian headmistress at the head of the institution who has made herself who has designed herself as law unto herself, disregarding parliament, disregarding the laws of this country, and abusing the administrative powers that have been given to her. So the telcos have a big task. They need to choose between the devil and the deep blue sea.
But is it not?
They choose to be scared of the minister, and then they will face our eye in court, where we come to them with class actions to try to see coming up. That would also wreck their bank balances. So they should choose which one wisely. Do they stand with the Ghanaian people against a draconian digital xenophobia person, or do they succumb to her whims and caprices and face the wrath of their customers in court?
But is it not also a matter of the minister understanding the personality of the sector that she manages, and also perhaps of the people, in knowing that if you do not proceed in a certain manner, you might not get compliance? And so, in her estimation, this is the best way to get compliance, to bring sanity and achieve the results that perhaps the executive has asked her to achieve. And so it might look harsh, but she might show you her numbers and say, well, at the rate at which I'm going, I'm very fine with it.
Godfred, the next NDC administration will have to do a cleanup of the register she's doing, unfortunately. Because this register she is carrying out is tainted and compromised even before she completes it. Why do I say so? Don't forget that the regulations that were put together, that she put out, allows for 1 Ghana card to register 10 SIM cards. Persons who are not able to access their own Ghana card out of fear of her high-handedness are beginning to go onto what we will call a digital black market now, where people are offering the services of using their Ghana card to register for anybody at all who is willing to pay a certain amount, ranging from between 50 cedis to 500 Ghana, so that you don't lose your SIM card. So what do you have? She will show you numbers of registered SIM cards. But the reality is, when you begin to do a forensic audit of who really holds those SIM cards, you will find out that people are using other people's Ghana cards to do the registration. So you've defeated the purpose of this re-registration. And that's why I've said she has created this inconvenience to achieve nothing. But that said, look, do you think that in the UK, all SIM cards are registered? Do you think that the minister responsible for information technology in the UK would ask the 70 million citizens of the UK to go and queue at O2 and EE offices? No sane minister would do that. No minister who understands the sector would use threats. In fact, not just in this sector. You don't roll out public policy using threats and force and intimidation. Public policy is rolled out as a service. And I keep maintaining that this implementation of SIM re-registration by Eflowusu will be used as a subject matter case study in public policy classes in Ivy League universities of how not to implement the public policy. Because you don't use threats to implement the public policy. Now imagine, let me just give you a scenario. Imagine that the minister had engaged the MNOs and said to the MNOs, we want for you, within a time frame of 6 months, to do a synchronization of all SIM card databases. And someone made that point, and I heard Eric and I want to believe it was Eric, disputing the fact every SIM card in this country today is registered. A is registered. As to whether the person who is holding the SIM card is the same person whose document was used to register is an issue that we all agree do not match. And that's why, even though there is no legal framework, as a minority in parliament, we have not opposed a re-registration drive, even though there's no legal framework backing it, because we believe we need a clean register. However, if she had asked the telco to match, cross-reference the IDs and the individual names and identities on their current SIM registry against the Ghana card database, because don't forget, every Ghana card holder who has registered for Ghana card gives a phone number, or a number of phone numbers. And so you can match those phone numbers on the Ghana card registry against the databases that you have with the MNOs. And then you have the MNOs send messages. Because, for example, Godfrey, imagine that you registered with your passport, your SIM card with your passport, when you got your SIM, registration in 2011. And now you have a Ghana card. Your number on the Ghana card is the same number, let's assume it's a 024 number, so MTN. MTN has your passport details. Your passport details hold your biometric data. The NIA database is linked to the passport database. So all they will do is cross-reference the fingerprint on your passport, the passport that was used to register your SIM card, against the fingerprint you entered for the NIA Ghana card. If they match, Godfrey, your network will automatically update the new SIM registry with your Ghana card details without you even coming into the picture. Now take the example of Sam George, who has not registered yet for his Ghana card. And so when the network MTN tries to match my passport biometrics with the NIA database, it will show that there's no data on the NIA database. My network will send me a message telling me that because I have no Ghana card entry, they cannot authenticate or verify my SIM registration. And then give me a timeline within which to appear. So you will not have a mad rush of everybody showing up at MTN at the same time or at NIA. And in fact, what you try to do is entice people. So imagine the telcos saying that anyone who completes your processing by coming to the place, you get 1 gigabyte of data or 200 megabytes of data free, which already the telcos give as freebies. Or you will get 60 minutes or 30 minutes of on-net call. These are the things that will make people approach this process and get involved in it. It is not the punitive measures. Punitive measures that are modeled around cities like Accra. Someone made a point, Godfrey, that imagine in my constituency is Greater Accra, but there is a rural part of my constituency. If someone has misplaced his Ghana card, the closest police station, someone in Panchendo or Agoto has misplaced his Ghana card, he will have to take a motorbike and 2 vehicles, 2 taxis, to get to the Pampam police post to be able to do a police report. And then now take that police report to Elwak or to Accra to get the NIA to start the processes of replacement. At whose cost? Don't forget that when the NIA did the registration, they did it at polling stations, right next to the doorstep of the people. The remedial measures for fixing problems with the NIA are not of that matter. People are saying, and then they say that, the NIA has cards sitting down there, nobody's coming to pick up. That is again the fault of the NIA. Don't forget the NIA promised that they were going to do a Chinahoji, a same instant issuance of cards. So you went to people's polling station, people left their farms and just from their farmstead and walked to where they normally vote and registered. You failed to issue them their cards. Then you say that person should leave his farm and come to the nearest NIA office or come to a regional office. In some parts of the country, that will be a distance of over 30 kilometers that you're asking people to follow up to go and pick up a card because you failed to deliver on your service. And now we claim that such citizens have not acted. If ESLA was minded to listen to the technical advice, you would not subject the Ghanaian people to this problem. But I'll make this last point.
Yes.
The government needs to be minded. I am reliably informed that Eslauso has not even engaged with the Ministry of Finance on the impact of what she is attempting to do. And look, I would dare Madame Eslauso on your network to turn off the SIM cards of over 3 million Ghanaian citizens, because 2 million citizens have not registered at all. Another 1 million have registered but have not been able to receive their cards. 3 million people who, even if you decided that each person had only one SIM card, some have two, some have three. So imagine if you were talking about 5 million SIM cards, she wants to deactivate it. I dare her to do it and see Ghana's economy even crash further. Because she has not engaged the finance ministry on the impact of this directive on CST revenues for government. Don't forget, in the engagement with the IMF, government is going with what its current projections of revenue are going into 2023. We are going to turn off 5 million SIM cards. 5 million SIM cards that make phone calls and use data that provides the CST revenues. You are going to be dropping the earnings of the telcos. That will affect their corporate taxes that they pay. The e-levy that is faltering will even falter more. She has not sat with them to see the economic impact. And then the impact on the economy, the service sector of our economy alone, that has not been done. She's running in a silo. And she thinks that this country would sit, and I say I am daring her on your network to shut down the SIM card and see if we will not have a national security crisis. It beholds on the national security minister and coordinator and the finance minister to draw the attention of cabinet to the irresponsibility of their colleague minister and rein her in for the safety of this country. There is a way to go about it. It is not what she's doing. She has to learn and listen to technical advice. Even her own ACA makes it clear to her that her actions are inimical to the growth of the sector. But she's tone deaf. She's tone deaf. And so we are expecting her. She wants to show she has power. She should go ahead and deactivate the SIM card. And let's see what will happen in this country.
All right, thank you very much, Sam Georges, Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, sharing his thoughts on the SIM re-registration exercise that has been ongoing. And I have been hit with a plethora of messages on this matter. A lot of people very, very unhappy with what is happening with the system. For instance, Adade says the NCA must be able to query the NIA database to filter all Ghanaians who have been captured in the database. Anyone who hasn't linked their Ghana card but is found in this filtered database must not suffer any punishment at this stage. That is his suggestion. Godfred, kindly ask your panelists if the data being collected by the telcos can be synchronized with that of the NIA. If not, who keeps that data? Well, that's a conversation we've had. Well, Godfred Atople, my good friend, says there's an incentive from his telco. It says that MTN, for instance, is giving away 1 gigabyte of data free for registering your SIM. I'll take a break. When I come back, I'll take final thoughts, final rounds of conversation on this. We'll hear from Maximus, we'll hear from Eric again, we'll hear from Selom, and then Franklin Kujo will give us benediction. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the big issue. I was trying to talk to Max, but let me go to the NCA. And like I said, those of you have sent me messages. I have a couple of questions. We'll talk to the Director of Legal of the NCA, Dr. Puku Eduse. Dr. Eduse, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the big issue.
Good morning, Mr. Buffo.
Yes. First question I'll ask, is the NCA clear in its mind on the legal remits or scope that it is working with regards to these directives that came out on Monday?
Definitely, yes. We are clear in our mind as what the law permits the NCA to do and what they cannot
do. Is the NCA minded about public convenience and discomfort based on some of these rules or punitive measures that you've put out?
Very much so. We are very minded because we are Ghanaians, and the decisions that affect Ghanaians is a part of us. So we are mindful of whatever decision we take. Just that in the midst of implementation, sometimes there could be some undesirable outcomes, but they are remedied immediately. Those are brought to our attention, and that's what we are doing.
What do you mean by there are remedies for those who are affected, considering the fact that this system was supposed to be foolproof in such a way that it protected those who had abided by your regulations. But it turns out there are some who have said, we've done what you asked us to do, but I'm still facing inconvenience because I've been barred.
Well, I will answer it in 2 ways. First, a number of persons had misappreciation of the requirement of the registration. It is a two-stage process, and some who have stated that they have registered, it turned out that they have not completed the full gamut of registration. And what they did was that after they got notification that they didn't say first stage, but that their linking of the Ghana card to their SIM has been successful, misinterpreted it to mean that was the end of it. So some of the complaints were in that regard, and as soon as it was pointed out, because I have to be lawyers who reached out to me, and then when I asked them to use star 400 hash to check and forward the message to me, it turned out that they had been successful only at the first stage, and had misinterpreted it to mean that they had done the registration. So they needed to then complete the remaining part. The second aspect is a number of persons who have indicated that when they did the dialing from star 400 hash and had their name, the unique code, and the BCAP stating yes. For such persons, their inability to make calls, if it wasn't a network issue, would be an error if they were unable to make it. So as soon as those came to our attention, they were remedied, and I think the public can testify to that.
But wouldn't it have been much better if such a situation did not arise, considering that once you put out these measures, there is an assumption that the architecture has been put in, it has been built in such a way that it does indeed not punish anybody, even if it's indeed just one person, that there are no victims?
That is our expectation, and that was what we were expecting, that there should be no adverse reaction. But you know, we are dealing with systems, networks, in which when you are rolling things out, there could be an undesirable result in terms of implementation. But those are very minimal, and what we try to do is to quickly resolve it as soon as they come up, so that people are not unduly inconvenienced.
Let's deal on another matter that has potential legal repercussions. On the data that is being collected via the self-service app, we know that we have data protection laws in this country. Are you certain the operation of that app is in strict compliance with what the law says right now?
I would say yes, definitely yes, because we've been working with Data Protection Commission. You know, we are all under the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization. So there is a technical team initially at the inception of the whole implementation from last year. We've had Data Protection Commission, we've had NIA and other state agencies involved. And we know that the host entity is NITA, which is the National Information Technology Agency, which is also an agency under the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization. So we are very aware of what the law expects us to do, and we are in strict compliance with it.
So the developer of the app is not storing any kind of data?
Not at all. You know, if you even commission someone to develop an app for you, the person's duty is supposed to make sure that he gets all your specifications gone through and done with. It belongs to you. And in this case, we are even leveraging on the government's own common platform which is hosted by the National Communications Authority. It belongs to the government of Ghana, and the host entity for the centralized database of all trains in the country is NITA.
So you are assuring citizens that the private developer of this app, Excel, has no access to this data in any form. It is going strictly to NITA.
Yes, they are not supposed to store any data, and they are supposed to.
Can you guarantee that?
The text that we give them. Yes, definitely yes. I would say that we will not allow any private individual. Of course, it's not only you. I mean, all of us who work with NCA and official positions are also submitting same information. So we are very mindful of where our information is going in the same way that we are protecting the people of that.
Are you certain of the current standing of this entity with the Data Protection Commission, Excel? Are they duly registered with the commission?
I will need to check that, and I wish that is directed to Data Protection Commission. But for us, whatever app was developed with a private partner is the property of the government of Ghana.
But if, just to be a bit technical, developed and property of the Republic of Ghana, but on the platform that we downloaded from, it does not indicate that the government of Ghana owns it. It does mention a private entity as owner.
Oh, I will have to check that well, but definitely when a private entity is commissioned to do a work for you, the output belongs to the commissioner, and that is not in doubt at all.
But on that particular platform, the rules are such that the ownership indeed has to be stated, and the correct ownership as such. And currently, as I'm looking at it, the NCA is not listed as owner of the product.
Well, it will not just be having NCA listed as the owner for it to be determinative as to who the owner is, right? It's like when you commission anyone, including even a judge, to do a commission of inquiry work for you. In terms of indicating the authorship at the back of that work, I mean, they have the name of the one who actually sat down and scribbled whatever report there. But it doesn't mean that the author who is indicated as the author of the work is the owner of the work. And that's well founded in our copyright student.
And if you can also educate me a bit legally, will that not pose a bit of a problem, considering the fact that if, as a private individual or user of this particular app, I am inconvenienced or unjustifiably mistreated or maltreated by this app, I am looking at this particular Excel as owner. That is where my legal suit would go, would it not?
No, in that case, you have to do a little bit of investigation to know who the eventual owner is, right? In this case, the right of authorship may be stated on the surface of it, but the right of ownership you may have to know before you can make that definitive conclusion.
All right, and two more questions just to wrap things up. What is the level of conversation that has been had between the NCA and the NIA on the integrity of the biodata that is being collected at the moment? Are you certain that at the end of this particular process, we will have data that the NIA will say, by virtue of the law that set us up, this is considered quality data?
It is not NIA that will determine the quality or otherwise of the data. That's another institution which is also mandated by law to execute the task. So it's not NIA that will do it. Just that because we are working as a collaborative institution with them, I mean, they've been part of our technical committee, the discussions they've been part, Of course, I mean, in the initial stage, there were some rough edges because of each person's province of operation. But over a period, we've been able to deal with it. That is why when you are able to link your Ghana card, eventually you will be able to confirm when you do your biometric that it is the same person with the same facial features that is linked to the card, so that another person cannot use your card and then go and do the second stage and get the results too. So we are working, and any challenges that we have, my chief executive and heads are always in touch with them. We've been in meetings with them on several occasions at their premises or in our premises, and we are working to make sure that this registration is successful for the protection of you and I, because there's a lot of junk cards out there which people are using to commit fraudulent acts.
Yes, but in doing so, is it not the position of the law currently that the baseline database for verification ultimately of any individual in this country is the NIA database? It cannot be the NCA database.
Yes, I mean, that's why the Ghana card is the eligible card that we are relying on for this exercise. And we are working with them to make sure that whatever data we get is in sync with their data.
And is the differentiator between the two databases not the taking of the fingerprints, which the NIA has very specific tools for, that this particular NCA operation does not have?
Well, I think I'm not denying NIA has gotten its partnership in place and they're able to take biometric data. But the system that we are running with to register them is equally robust and it's workable for the NCA and its partner agencies with NITA.
So just to confirm again and get clarity, the NCA is very confident that the data that it is collecting currently via this particular process eventually is one that the NIA can work with, if need be.
Definitely, yes. We are very confident that the data is solid, is workable, and it's been well tested before it was rolled out.
All right, then thank you very much for your patience and time this afternoon. Dr. Puku Edu says, Director of Legal of the National Communications Authority. I've tried to ask him all the questions that time will allow me. Maximus, unfortunately, time, I can give you just a minute or two, since your face looks like you are appealing. I'll make it two.
No, I think this process is not solid. The design process and the app process and everything, I think, it's not been professionally done. And we know Amazon and Google servers are involved in hosting of the app. We've already engineered that. And there's a verification that goes through a company, another foreign company in Ghana, right? So he's not saying that as well. For me, at the end of the day, NIA, they've been able to, synchronize over 24 million accounts in Ghana without it being a news headline, right? Really? Bank accounts and everything. Your bank didn't ask you for your biometric information, but they've connected your Ghana card to it, right? So why can't the NCA do the same way so that I can go and register the number that I use to register my Ghana card? I can use the Ghana card to verify the same number. It makes it simpler so that we don't go through the whole process of taking biometric data, having a different ISO, standardization as against the NIA one. What is going to happen that I can be sure is that NIA will say they're using the Ghana card number to verify your data and not your biometric data.
All right, point well made. Thank you very much, Maxim Mosamed Togo. Eric, for giving me time is fast spent.
Right.
Selon Brandt here, Vice President of Imani Africa, Samuel George, and Dr. Puku Edusei, Director of Legal of the NCA, joined us for this segment of the show. My name is Godfred Akutuboff. I hope your questions are answered on some of these matters. Have a pleasant weekend.